Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BI Livecast series. My name is Mike D'Elia, and I am the content and community lead for New England here at Brand Innovators. Welcome to the C-Suite and Marketing Leadership Livecast. Today is really, really special, and I'm so thrilled to kick off this event. We've got a phenomenal panel with an awesome lineup of marketers. And before we get started, we'd like to thank all of the marketers, sponsors, and of course the audience for helping make this event possible. Throughout the event, you'll be able to use the Q&A widget and chat function at the bottom of your screen. We encourage you to really engage with our speakers and other attendees using the widgets throughout the program. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Miguel Zarilla, Senior Director Marketing at Ferrero, and their moderator, Jillian Robinson, Senior Manager of Global Communications for Dash Hudson. Welcome both.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Of course.
Hi there. How's everyone? I'm asking how everybody's doing, but nobody can hear me. Hello, Miguel. How are you?
Hey, Jillian. How you doing?
Great, thank you. We're really excited to be here with everyone today. And as you all know, we are joining together to talk about how to reach and connect with a younger consumer. I know that this is something on a whole lot of marketers' minds. So before we jump in here, my name is Jillian Robinson from Dash Hudson. And I have the pleasure to introduce you to Miguel, who is the Senior Marketing Director at Ferrero USA and actually one of Brand Innovators' top 40 under 40 class of 2021. So welcome, Miguel.
Thank you, Jillian. I appreciate that. And, I would love to take the moment to introduce our lovely moderator for the session, Jillian. So Jillian is the Senior Global Communications Manager for Dash Hudson. Dash Hudson is a social media software solution that has helped many companies like Condé Nast, Apple, and Unilever. She comes with extensive experience spearheading marketing and comm strategies across industries. So, Julian, I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Me too, Miguel. So with that said, let's dive right in here. Today, we're really going to be discussing how to reach and connect with younger consumers. And this pairing between the two of us, it really could not be more perfect. At Dash Hudson, I know we're seeing so many of our brand partners really investing in reaching Gen Z and figuring out how they can do that while also preparing how do they reach the next up and coming generation of younger consumers as well. We're seeing tons of brands adopt new channels like TikTok. They're learning how to speak their language. They're becoming more experimental, breaking away from rigid brand standards and really having fun in these spaces and giving themselves permission to be more playful with the marketing. We actually dedicated an entire report to the topic of generational marketing as part of our Global Digital Insights series. That's how important we think this shift is to discuss. So when I was reading this report, Miguel, I actually saw a stat that really stood out to me that I wanted to share with everyone today. Are you ready for it? Gen Z will actually spend $3.1 trillion in market by 2020. Or 2030, $3.1 trillion.
We got to target them. We got to get them.
Now is the time. It is wild out there. We'd love to hear your take on marketing to these younger consumers, Miguel.
Julian, I think where I want to pivot the conversation is really looking at some of the key buzzwords that we tend to use as marketers in terms of reaching younger consumers, and maybe putting a different spin on them and providing some of my perspective on some of these buzzwords, so to speak. And the first one being the term audiences. I would say know your audience is something we hear a lot in our careers, but depending on your marketing objective, and to be honest, your budget, an audience per se may be too big of a target to actually be effective. There may be times when we have to really go a level deeper and talk about communities within a particular audience. The second, I would say, buzzword is authenticity, which is something we as marketers, we strive for and we should be doing. Although the idea of intimacy is something I want to quickly dive into. Some of the fastest growing forms of media tend to be very intimate, sometimes fostering parasocial relationships. So when a parasocial relationship is when you feel like you have a relationship with someone, but that person may not actually know who you are. Yeah, I know it sounds a little weird, but if you think about this particular moment in history, it makes sense that we want to feel some type of connection with the content and those who are creating the content that we consume. And then lastly, we have experiences. It's almost taken for granted at this point that millennials and Gen Zers value experiences over things. But what we want more from but we want to deliver more from these experiences. We want to get more. So when we think about experiences, especially as millennial, I'm a millennial, we want novelty. We want choices from these experiences. We don't want the cookie cutter. We want something cultivated, something unique for us when we think about the idea of an experience. I think, if I were to summarize these three concepts, it's really about moving from, this idea of a broad culture to a multitude of diverse cultures. I mean, this movement has been something that's been happening for quite some time, but now marketers have more tools to track and really reach these specific cultures. And I'm personally excited about what it unlocks for us and how we can go deeper with these communities and these subcultures.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying about subcultures. That's really resonating with me for sure. But like you said, when it comes to really reaching those subcultures, specifically in a younger demographic, that's a super broad audience. And I would imagine it's like really critical to find your niche within those subcultures or those audiences. How have you teased out a community from such a broad space?
Okay, so I will use one of the broadest spaces of spaces with just gaming. So over the last 2 years, since taking over the Butterfinger business, we've really honed in on with the gaming, what I'll start by saying community, and with a particular initiative that we call Game Better with Butterfinger. When we started the effort of Game Better with Butterfinger, I personally thought the term gamers was the audience I was looking to reach. Well, Jillian, I'll tell you what, I was wrong about that. And I'll admit I was wrong about that. I quickly learned that gaming is really the activity. There's many different communities that engage with this activity of gaming. So you have this broad audience that we call gamers, but there's actually subcultures or sub-communities within this audience of gamers. And when we've really teased that out, we've actually gotten better results the more specific we get to those particular communities. So instead of solely, don't get me wrong, it's very important to reach the broader audience through conventions like PAX or pre-roll buys on Twitch and YouTube, we've also we've supplemented that with a focus on particular communities and communities who create and consume content about individual games and franchises, and reach those specific fans with things we know they'll love and that they will share with their communities. We actually work directly with game publishers to develop unique in-game content, and we partner more so with actual micro influencers who are true fans, I would say almost ambassadors of those particular games we're partnering with. This has truly allowed us to connect with those communities. Finally, we actually want to elevate different communities of gaming influencers. So for example, I will use, the most recent example that we have. In February, we hosted streams and panel discussions at the end of Black History Month to discuss and showcase this particular community of influencers. To give a context of what that looked like, we have a quick sizzle reel of that particular activation to show, and hopefully it'll pop up, we'll see, but it looks like it's happening.
Can't wait to see that.
There we go.
Butterfinger has been involved in the gaming community for years and is constantly striving to showcase a wide diversity of gamers. In celebration of Black History Month, the brand pledged to elevate the discussion around diversity in gaming. The Diversity in Gaming Roundtable, hosted by Butterfinger, put a spotlight on an amazing cast of streamers and their unique stories. Brand and influencer social posts received 93.2 thousand organic impressions. They streamed a combined 510 minutes along with the roundtable, which earned 54,000 total views. From Twitch to Twitter, the gaming community voiced how proud they were to work with a brand like Butterfinger. Check out the Diversity in Gaming Roundtable hosted by Butterfinger.
I didn't see women who look like me out there, loud and proud. I was like, okay, so we're the women who casually game. We just have fun. We build a community, and we just do this.
So we all, help each other in a way, and I love that.
Super important for all of us to express allyship all year round so that we can have a more diverse and inclusive and equitable space in gaming for all of us to enjoy.
Each gamer led a stream sponsored by Butterfinger. Check it out.
Oh my God, Butterfinger's going crazy. By the way, oh my gosh. Shout out to Pop Eat Arts.
I have so much Butterfinger stuff, and I'm not mad at it.
Yo, they broke the bot. This is a throwback to Mixer. Break the bot. Break that bot. Break the bot. Break that bot. Break the bot. Click the subs. Show some love. I am broken. I don't even know what to do.
Make sure you guys get you some Butterfinger, all right? Then you can understand why I tell y'all the following.
So I think, this just shows a very small example. This was mainly an organic, quick, program that we did, but it's all about elevating our partners and really giving them the opportunity to talk to their communities. And really, as a brand, yes, we had t-shirts and such, but we took a step back and we said, guys, talk to one another. Talk about what it means to be, a Black streamer, Black, video game, a Black Twitch streamer, and what does that mean for you guys? And we allowed that and we fostered that opportunity. And again, it's about going deeper into these communities and not thinking about a particular audience of gamers as one and the same, and really taking that level deeper.
That is so awesome, Miguel. I wish you could see. I actually have literal goosebumps on my arms. I just think that this is such a wonderful example of brands doing it right and really truly walking the walk, not just talking the talk, and giving that spotlight to amplify Black voices in the space. I think that's fantastic. So huge kudos to you guys. I also love that one streamer had Butterfinger themed makeup on. I thought that was really fantastic. But with that said, the concept of parasocial relationships, I find that super interesting. I know there's a few celebrities who I feel like I know, like Britney Spears, who has no clue who I am. But it makes me think of that feeling of familiarity we have specifically with a brand that we really love. Can you dive deeper into that and maybe give us a few examples?
Yeah, no, of course. I'll give two examples. I'll take one, being podcasting. I think that's quite a generic medium that we all, one way or another, leverage. So when you think about podcasts, for example, unlike, I'll call it the noisy party, so to speak, of Twitter and Facebook, listening to a podcast is almost by default a solo experience, something you do while working, exercising, or commuting. It's an intimate experience that makes you feel like the podcaster is someone you chat with, you laugh with on an everyday basis. This feeling can create actually a lot of trust with the listeners, more than you can with a commercial on TV or digital, or a magazine ad, for example. And now, coming out of that Twitch video, I'll go again and use Twitch as an example. So streaming on Twitch is another example of this parasocial relationships, because when you watch a streamer on Twitch, especially an up and coming one, you'll notice they mention viewers by name just to thank them for joining or just to say hi. If you as a viewer, say you type a question or make a joke in their chat box, they may respond, and most likely they would. This creates a sense for the viewer or their followers that they actually know the person, and you root for them, both within the game they're playing to win, but honestly, in longer term, you root for them as they grow their audience and their career. We've seen firsthand from a Butterfinger perspective, followers actually get very excited when their favorite up-and-coming streamer partners with a brand like a Butterfinger. For them, it feels like their friend is getting their flowers. And Butterfinger, in return, actually gets we've gotten a lot of positive sentiment on that, because we're the brand giving those flowers to, this up and coming streamer that they follow, and, they've seen go from 1,000 to 20,000, 30,000, and so on. So there is that piece of connection that you have when you go into, at some of those more micro influencers, for example. But I would say when you think about these personalities on Twitch or platforms like podcasting, that creates more intimacy with their audiences, it provides a great opportunity for brands if and only if the brand finds a way to authentically engage in that moment. So you have the opportunity for intimacy. Now, as a brand, going back to that, second buzzword, you found a channel for intimacy. Now you need to make sure you keep top of mind the authentic way of engaging to that intimate platform.
Absolutely. Speaking of opportunities, it's a really exciting time again. People are getting back out there. Live entertainment is back. Things are happening. Finally, at Dash Hudson, we're really interested to see the ways that social media and entertainment avenues are converging. We've been calling this the era of social entertainment. We're big believers that this is really happening out there right now. How do you think companies can provide younger consumers with unique experiences with their brand, blending digital and in-person touch points?
I will say first and foremost, it's definitely not a one size fits all. I think it depends on your brand. It depends on your industry. But I will say the one thing that I do feel is more of a blanket statement. I always say, meet them where they are and provide them a unique experience, or take them where they want to be. So I think no matter what, that is a consistent thread, no matter the brand, the industry. Now if I were to dive deeper into an example of, that I'm executing right now, I'm currently running a promotion with Fanatics. So Fanatics is the #1 sports merchandise and apparel industry retailer. And I'm partnering with them because we're in the thick of the sports season. We came out of Super Bowl. We're just coming out of March Madness. Baseball season is up and coming. So, this is spring, even though it doesn't look out like that outside here in New Jersey, but it's springtime. And, we wanted to partner and really lean into sports. So with the purchase of a Butterfinger, you can receive Fanatics bucks to buy the apparel of your choosing. So again, you have that choice. It's not a particular set in stone what you can get. So you get the bucks and you can choose what apparel or gear you would like. And then again, you can dive even deeper for your favorite team or sports. That was great. And, but what we wanted to do was actually go and elevate that idea of providing experience and choice even further. So we overlaid a sweeps for consumers to win a VIP trip to the championship of their choice for next year. So we're not forcing the Super Bowl, like it's not win a chance to the Super Bowl or March Madness. We're actually providing our consumers the opportunity to choose and cultivate their own once in a lifetime experience. And I think, if we think about what has been done in the past, and I'll play on Super Bowl because so many, we've all once or in our careers have played in this space around enter for a chance to win Super Bowl, which is great. But now we're at a time of taking that the step further for this new younger consumer and saying, okay, how can we have these tried and true tactics, but expand it to a world where they can cultivate that experience, whether it's in sports or what have you, on their own terms, so to speak.
I love that element of personalization without having to know who the person is. That's very, very creative. Good approach on that. And with that said, millennials and Gen Xers out there, we all remember the iconic line from The Simpsons, "Keep your hands off my Butterfinger." I certainly remember it. How is Ferrero thinking about leveraging media, pop culture, and virality to really reach that next generation we're talking about today?
Yeah, so sorry, so it's actually No One Lays a Finger, but yes.
Okay. Well, I remembered it.
No, it is. So I'm just joking, but it is actually a very iconic tagline. And, we knew that No One Lays a Finger was an iconic tagline. And to your point, if we think about the heyday of the brand, Bart Simpson, the Simpsons era, it was something that people still echo back to us and still remember. So we know that that was a good thread of consistency that we could have from the past to the present of this campaign. And it was an important anchor for us. Not to mention, it is a great way of evoking our product irresistibility. So we say Butterfinger is an irresistible product. What better tagline than, no one lays a finger on my, on my Butterfinger, or, the way we pivoted, no one lays a finger on your Butterfinger. And I'll get to the pivot there on the my versus yours in a moment. But when we decided that, there is a point of heritage and iconicness of this tagline, and that needs to be the anchor, we said, okay, now how do we take this and make it relevant for a new, age group, a new demographic who may not have the affinities that some of us have from back in the heyday of this brand with the Bart and the Simpsons partnership. So we looked at what's happening now and in the moment culturally, and you would see that crime shows and documentaries have been and continue to be beloved in the US. If we could look at Netflix, there always tends to be a top 10 crime show or documentary. I mean, I love a good crime show or and a crime related documentary. So we knew that there's something there. So we leveraged that relevant kind of idea, and the output of that was the BFI, so the Butterfinger Investigators. So as you can tell, the BFI is a spin on FBI. So, we've created a whole detective investigation unit to really stop Butterfinger thieves red-handed. So we have seen a lot of great success with this campaign. I'm really, it's almost 2 years old. We launched in September of 2020. And to your point around how we connect it with the younger consumer, we know that the younger consumer is on digital. It's mobile, it's digital. Long gone are the, unfortunately, are the days of TV. TV is still very important. Do not get me wrong. You will see my ad on TV, but we need to leverage digital to really drive that further connection and drive a little deeper. So what we've done is we've leveraged digital media to help extend our story. So we've created what we call Webisodes, which are about, anywhere from 2.5 to 3 minutes long, to really immerse our consumers into the world of the BFI. So when you see one of our Webisodes, it is more like a little TV show, or a little, movie trailer or clip that allows the consumer much more than the 15 or 30 seconds they can get on TV or, a pre-roll buy. So there's this level of, developing immersive, in-depth content that we've taken, and we've leveraged digital media to help us. So for those of you who may not know or haven't seen the BFI, that's unfortunate, but we can change that because I'm going to show, I can't show a full webisode because I don't think we have enough time for that, but what we will show is our first 30-second launch spot from September of 2020.
Butterfinger Investigators.
They're set.
Whoa, that's next level.
I'm going in.
Who are you guys? BFI, Butterfinger Investigators.
No one lays a finger on your Butterfinger.
So that was our first launch, as I mentioned, and we're continuing to evolve this campaign year over year with more unique, out-of-the-box ways where thieves are coming after people's Butterfingers, and the way that the BFI come and stop that thief red-handed. So again, it's really for us, when we talk about bringing this campaign to life for younger consumers, it's how we can leverage digital media, extend this world, the content that we gain, partner with the right influencers, and also take the moments where it's applicable to bring this in store as well, to really help connect this idea with shoppers. So we've done that as well at key moments like Halloween, as well as some everyday moments for us. So yeah, there you go.
I've got to admit, in that clip there, I really was not expecting that big like blue infusion on that guy's face. It made me jump a little bit. So you definitely can pay attention. I did jump. But I really believe the overarching theme of the Brand Innovators content today is how do we win the digital game? Big question. What would you say is the single biggest digital development in recent memory that marketers can leverage to win?
Okay, I mean, I feel like my answer is going to be a generic one, or the one everyone's going to expect. Of course, what we're seeing right now is TikTok as a platform has completely taken over. It's, brands are being completely developed leveraging this app. So one, I would say the no-brainer is if you can, activate and find your authenticity on TikTok, partner with the right influencers and find your way in. I would say that's the most tactical and what we see. And then you also have other emerging platforms. Like for us, we really have seen Twitch become our way in with gamers, again, because of the particular community that we're going after. And then just, I would say digital in general, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, these are all tried and trues. But I would say one of the biggest learnings that I've had to date is the influencer community. This younger consumer is looking at these folks, one as personal advocates of advice for what clothes to wear, what food to buy, what brands to lean into. So it's one, making sure as a brand you dedicate time for influencers in your mix, but really find the right influencers that can truly become eventual brand advocates for you. And what we found actually most impactful is partnering with these micro and mid-tier influencers, because there's still this level of authenticity that they bring to the table. Again, going back to the buzzword, there's still that level of authenticity that they bring to the table that maybe some of these macro influencers, even though you may get the reach there that a mid-tier or micro wouldn't provide, you're getting the level of engagement from their followers because they're not seeing so many of these brand partnerships, brand integrations, and they want to see their friend grow, and they want to see them, propel their careers in partnership with some of these brands. So those would be some of the, biggest takeaways. I recognize it's a little generic because, TikTok influencers, these are also, call it buzzword tactics of the moment, but it's true and it's working. So I think the biggest piece of advice, which, is really dependent on each brand and your strategies, how are you driving that closeness and that relevancy and that intimacy when you execute against these digital tactics?
That's great advice, Miguel. Thank you for sharing that, everyone. We're definitely aligned for sure. With that said, that wraps up all of my questions for today. You've got a couple compliments in the chat, but I did want to open up the floor to any questions that anybody may have before we close up this session for the day.
Great.
Just keeping an eye on the chat box there.
Jillian, maybe if we don't have any questions, I know Dash Hudson's doing a lot. Anything that you would like to build in regards to just connecting with the younger consumer via digital and social?
I think what you were saying earlier, and it's funny that you just asked me that question because I was about to say the same thing. I think a lot of our alignment today is about the opportunity that TikTok is really providing for brands and the magic that happens when you do leverage that micro influencer, really figuring out how you can connect your brand to that community in a more authentic way. And it's really interesting too, to see the creative spin that these micro influencers can have on your brand when you kind of allow them permission to go ahead and do things in their own way versus trying to keep things too rigid. So I know for us at Dash Hudson, we're all about the era of social entertainment and the opportunity that some of these really creator-driven platforms like TikTok can provide. But I do see a question that just popped in here for you, Miguel. We got some brain spinning, a couple more. What brands do you look up to in the digital space? What leaders in marketing do you admire?
So I would say brands in the digital space, I'll keep this broad because I don't want to, be put on the spot with a particular one, but I'll keep it broad in my answer, and it's very intentional. I think the ones that I really look towards, believe it or not, it's everyone will want to say like, some of these bigger guys like Nike, Apple, all that. I actually really value what some of these new up and coming brands are doing because of their level of nimbleness. I think in this world of digital space and how quick social and digital move, we need to be nimble and we need to be agile and we need to be able to jump on something in real time. And I think, unfortunately, some of us as bigger brands, we have a bigger ship to move. So our nimbleness isn't there as some of these up and coming brands, some of these challenger brands, so to speak. So I would encourage us, those of us who have bigger brands and maybe some more protocols, so to speak, in place. How can we learn from these challenger brands, these up and coming brands that are being built and growing and developing on this, platforms like TikTok and what have you? What can we learn from them and kind of put into our, call it, machine or protocols? Meaning, do we have a log of pre-approved responses or what have you? It's more so for me when I think about the brands I look to, it's actually these newer brands that are being developed on the social space because they're doing it right. And how can I take some nuggets and really as influence and as inspiration for my brand?
Wonderful answer. And I'm about to put you on the spot again. Are there any particular up and coming influencers that are of particular interest lately? Anybody that stands out?
Okay, so in the world of not putting myself in a position of, well, why didn't you say me? Because we partner with a lot of influencers. I would say for us, it really truly comes down to influencers that are aligned to our brand personality and who really evoke our brand personality and what we want to do with a particular program. And I will say we have partnered quite consistently with influencers. If I think about gaming, we tend to go back to the same influencers time in, time out. Again, specifically micro and mid-tier, because they really do help us. The more we partner with them, they really do become brand advocates. And you see, it doesn't become a question, oh, why are you partnering with X brand? Why are you partnering with Butterfinger? It pivots actually the conversation to, oh, why aren't you partnering with Butterfinger on this? And that's kind of the dynamics we want to have. So what we do, and when we find, whether it's in the gaming space or influencers that we want to partner with at Halloween or what have you, or baking, for example, we really try to find those influencers that we can really go back to consistently and that eventually really do become a true part of the team. And I know it's a little cliche and corny, but it is true. Like, we come back to them because they start to feel a part of the team.
Absolutely. Relationships are everything for sure. And kind of springing from that topic, I think our final question here is, what does connecting authentically really mean?
I think it starts with knowing your brand. So knowing what your brand stands for. So what is who is your brand as a person? Who are they showing up to as the party? What is their brand tone? And taking that and making sure that no matter what execution you do, you really come to the table with, whether it's influencer partners, whether it's promotions with other brands, whether it's content, that it really helps to evoke that personality, because that shows, one, that your brand is not being force fit into a situation, because it's very clear when a brand is force fit into a situation. So that delivers a moment of authenticity. But then it also is about moments of, when do you need to just take a step back slightly? I know it's hard for us as marketers. We want our full branding. We want, all of our brand communications out there. But there are moments where we actually get more value from the consumer base when we take more of a passive seat. So if I go back to the example that I shared of the roundtable that we had for Black History Month on Twitch, these guys we did not give them, all right, you guys have these 5 lines that you have to say about Butterfinger. No, we said, guys, we'll give you some t-shirts. but have a conversation. We had a moderator to help guide the conversation, but it was all about authentically hearing from these voices what it means to be a Black streamer. And Butterfinger was there. We were passive, we facilitated, but we allowed this opportunity, and we saw that actually drive more engagement for us as a brand, and more, than we'd even wanted or asked for. So there's different ways to really be authentic. I always say it starts with knowing who your brand is, knowing how you want to show up to your consumer, and then ensuring you keep that thread across every partnership, every activation, and every messaging you put in front of your consumer, and making sure that there are moments where you know that this may be too much of a force fit, and be okay with either stepping away completely or maybe taking a back seat, and recognizing that it actually in the long run will do your brand more justice than not.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, for sure. Thanks so much, Miguel, for all of your thoughtful answers. And thank you to everyone for tuning in today. Now, I have to be completely honest. I am like big time craving a Butterfinger right now. So something that you're doing is working. So thanks so much, Miguel. Really excited for the opportunity to speak with you today, and appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
And Jillian, thank you for moderating a great conversation. I think the questions were great, and hopefully we were able to spark some inspiration for those who are viewing.
I certainly got a lot of inspiration. That was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. As a Gen Zer, a lot of what you said rings true for me. So you're right on the money with that. So thank you both so much for your time. We have another session on the way. Next up, we have John Starkweather, Associate Vice President of Advertising at AT&T, moderated by Les Harrison, Brand Partnerships Programmatic Lead from Outfront Media. So they'll be joining us very shortly. We're looking forward to another great conversation. Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
You're coming in. Sound, just waiting for. Oh, hello. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I think we are off. Kirk, welcome.
Thank you.
Just
I'm clearly not John Starkweather. I don't even look like John Starkweather, but I'm his twin brother from another mother.
I was going to make a quick change joke, but listen, we're ready to rock and roll, I think. All right.
Yep.
Great. So hello everyone. My name is Les Harrison. I'm part of the brand partnerships team at Outfront Media. We are one of the largest out-of-home media companies in the U.S. and excited to be partners with brand innovators here on this C-Suite Marketing Leadership Livecast. I would like to introduce again Kirk Heinlein. Kirk is the AVP Corporate Brand Marketing on the Global Marketing team at AT&T. Good morning here in Dallas, Kirk.
Good morning.
Not John Starkweather. So Kirk, I thought we could just kind of start off here, just giving everyone a little background on yourself and your current role at AT&T.
Thanks, Les. Yeah, I'm definitely not John, but I work hand in hand with him. So we are both what we consider old guard at Brand Innovators, I believe. And so he tagged you're it. And so I'm here to join you today. I've been at AT&T for about 11 years now, and have bounced around the telecom industry for more years than I care to admit. And so at AT&T, I've been in the brand team, on the business marketing team, and now most recently in the Firstnet marketing team, working directly with our public service agencies on Firstnet.
And could you just give us a little bit a background on Firstnet?
Yeah, Firstnet is a fantastic opportunity that we have gotten ourselves involved with. It is the nation's only federally mandated telecommunications ecosystem developed with and for first responders. And it came about as a result of 9/11. There were a lot of communication issues that happened, and the commission, the 9/11 Commission, recommended that there be a nationwide network for first responders. And so Firstnet was born. And of all the various telecom providers in the US, Firstnet was ultimately chosen to be the provider, or AT&T, sorry, was ultimately chosen to be the provider. And Firstnet, a completely separate brand and a completely separate network, was born.
Awesome. It's good to hear that there's something like that out there, because I know that there's some struggles there, and there could be some hurdles in terms of communication. So I'm really happy to see that AT is powering the network. That type of network and offering sounds like there is a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. I mean, you're probably selling to trying to get this on board with government agencies and firehouses and department heads, and not to mention the layer of politics and city council and state, and we can go down and down the list. As you try to target and get really specific with your message, just listing that out sounds challenging and nauseating in general. It sounds like really events have started to play a pretty big role in what you're doing. You mentioned being part of Police Week in DC. Can you just kind of give us a little bit a peek behind, not just that event, but some of the other things that you're doing to really reach that target audience?
Yeah, you clearly cheated, Les, because we've got the primer for today's conversation. But you're absolutely right. I've worked in all sorts of different types of marketing and tried to find all sorts of different kind of targets. Up to this point, I would say the most complex was some of our enterprise customers that had huge installations of products and services, and a lot of varying needs and a lot of different decision makers. But then I found Firstnet, and man, oh man, is it complex in terms of trying to best understand how that happens. Because as you said, as we talked yesterday, and as you said, there are literally tens to hundreds of people that could be involved in a decision to switch a telecom network. A great deal of the services we provide are decided upon by a whole agency, so a whole police department for a city, or the patrol for a state or something like that. And when it comes to that, there have to be people that are involved from a budgeting perspective, from a technology perspective, and ultimately then you start to get into the politics of it all, and you get your state representatives and your congressmen and your local authorities, and wow, all those folks need to be convinced that it makes sense to shift to something like Firstnet for their products and services. Luckily, it's the best thing out there since we came about and created it, because it is federally mandated and supported. It was developed, with first responders hand in hand. So it's just a matter of wrangling all the people. The convincing is fairly easy, but wrangling all the folks to come together for a single decision on anything in the public space is a challenge, as you can imagine. So yeah, to your point, events and coming to events and working with associations and local organizations is especially critical, because these decisions are made by groups of people and by, on a local basis. And so you might have a small town's volunteer fire department trying to make a decision on what's the recommended product and service they want to use. It's really complex, and events are a huge portion of what we do, including Police Week.
I can imagine. Just being integrated with the local communities is something that you have to do, and that's also not just a way to reach out to the audience, but also, being that fabric of that community, right? And making sure that AT&T is there and they care, and that they have, that kind of that human element. It's something that at Outfront, we're super proud to be a part of the inner working of the communities. We feel like, Out of Home is this voice of the community, and we use our space to really help people, places, and businesses, grow stronger. And so, understanding that and understanding the being that fabric, what other ways and kind of tactics and things that you use to kind of bring all that together. While events are great, certainly you can't do one every day. Certainly, people come and go to it, and there's other ways and tactics to be able to reach out and reach that target audience. What are some ways that you've found to be successful, and maybe some that, maybe haven't been so great, and that you need to, kind of pivot from?
Yeah, I would say, and this is something you heard with the former speaker as well, authenticity of message is really key. And never been so true in something like Firstnet and the world of first responders. When you're selling Butterfingers, for example, as the previous speaker was talking to, I guess there's probably a certain amount of commercialism that's expected. But when you're selling products and services that help people save lives, they really expect you to be authentic. And so that's a key aspect of what we do. And so in each and every case, we try to get down to the level of the individual users and best understand what they need, what their challenges are, and how to reach out to them. And that in and of itself, to get that close to your customer base on a nationwide level is challenging. But like you said, things are changing. The digital environment makes it so much easier now than ever before to be able to get closer to your customers without having hundreds of thousands of feet on the street to do that. I mean, you tell me about your products and services. You guys have done some pretty incredible stuff in the digital space, allowing the customization of messages down to a local basis and using some of the data. I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah, that's true. We really like to call it powered by audiences. And so, we're able to understand, how audiences are interacting with our assets, what their journey is, and then be able to deliver the right location. So, we could essentially put an ad in front of a fire station, but, we could also understand where those first responders are coming from and how they're moving throughout the market to be able to, reach them while they're out, and not only those first responders too, but you mentioned the laundry list of people that have to target there as well. All those audiences are in the same way you would look at your digital, the way you would look at your digital marketing, and really starting to deliver that flexibility, those audiences, so that advertisers are really, getting the right location with the right message at the right time. And once you've done all that, to your point, you have to be really authentic, or there's heck to pay, so to speak, right? Like the backlash can be crazy, but like when you nail it, you nail it. And you had mentioned about authenticity, and I think that the previous group did as well. Like, it's so important now to make sure that you are true to brand, but not only true to brand, but also that runs throughout. So you mentioned during our call that you guys were doing some things that were authentic, not just going to these events and being in the community, but also in your media and some of these other projects. You mind telling us a little bit about those?
Yeah, like I said, it's crucial that we're part of the community of first responders, and in doing so, we go as far as making sure that our communications, our advertising, even our photography, that we use in our ads features real first responders in real situations as best we can. It is a challenge to do that. They don't often have time to be part of a traditional photo shoot like we would do in the old days. But we are now finessing our ability to capture them doing their job, much more reportage, if you will, and understand their world so that we can feature it. And that authenticity is really crucial. I can recall one particular situation where we had some talent, and it was talent. It was not a real first responder. And despite the prop and wardrobe people's best intent, they had their badge on the wrong side. And those types of things can make a statement that you don't know us, you don't know what you're doing, you don't get us, and therefore we're not going to trust you or put our communications in your hands. And so it is a highly sensitive, important marketplace. And so that authenticity is crucial. And that's why we go to the extent of really, really bringing in first responders and talking to them, photographing them, featuring them in our TV commercials as much as possible.
Yeah, you certainly have to toe that line between like politics and culture and, all that. And I can only imagine, going in and trying to convince a large group around changing over some of their, tried and true technologies to this one that's, government funded, large carrier. I'm sure that there's a lot of elements at play there, and it's that one, those attention to details and that authenticity that allows that to happen. Because like you said, they'll call it right out, right off the bat. That's great to see, and that the key there obviously is being very, very authentic. And I love the photograph thing because those things stand forever, and they could be like pieces of artwork in the the firehouse, while also being an ad on a billboard, while also being in a direct mail. Like you can just kind of do it on everything, and it really and when it's done by someone that's in the field, does feel like it's very authentic, and they'll know what to do and what not to do.
Miguel just talked about the importance of matching influencers to the products and services they sell. You don't want to have a Michael Jackson experience where he doesn't actually consume the product that he's selling. That doesn't fly anymore. So that level of authenticity across all brands, I think, is paramount, and especially true with a high involvement brand like Telecom and Firstnet. Yeah,
and I also feel like though that authenticity doesn't just come in like advertising, right? Like it's I can see it in your your passion, but like it's also got to be interwoven within the organization. And from my experience, brands are asking media partners to really do the same, right? Like trying to be on par or do what they do. And I think I'm proud to say that diversity and inclusion are a huge part about Outfront. We have a responsibility to positively impact people and businesses within our communities, and this gets manifested through some of our campaigns that we've done for Women's History Month. We did the Uplifted, celebrating Black History Month and spotlighting Black youth across the country, all very authentic. And I think to I guess a question to you, like as a senior leader, you're someone that builds teams, and you're hiring, you've got to be authentic. Like how does all that kind of come together, and how important is DE&I and authenticity and culture to current and to future employees?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say that there are two aspects of authenticity when it comes to products like Firstnet. The first we've kind of talked about a little bit, and that's that idea of truly understanding the target. And it is more than just outward communications. It is a internalization of that understanding of the target through and through. And to that point, we have upwards of 1,000 first responders or previous first responders that work at AT&T that we consult with. And our core Firstnet team is built of all former first responders so that they understand the business and the marketplace. And that's crucial. So not only do we speak to them externally in a way that they can appreciate and understand and identify with, but our own employees live true to those things and challenges and day-to-day feelings of the first responders. So that's one aspect of it. The other is to make sure that we represent that DE&I, if you will, as appropriately as possible. And it's, again, I think those two are related for Firstnet or something like Firstnet, because if we feature our first responders as they are in their world, then we have authentically covered DE&I in a way that is true to them and is true to real life. So the fact that we are authentic by capturing them helps us with representing them from a DE&I perspective across the board. And so that's very helpful. Now, there's another complexity I'll give you, though, which many brands don't have to deal with. But because we're talking about law enforcement, fire, EMS, and specifically law enforcement, as of late, law enforcement has become in the spotlight. There are proponents and detractors of law enforcement. There are lots of opinions on law enforcement. It has become a political issue. And so we support, obviously, and really value law enforcement. But there is a balance there that we have to play as a brand. It's also represented by AT&T in our name that we have to be aware of. So not to say it's complex, but then you add on politically complex. It's a great and fun challenge.
Could you just, maybe there's some folks on the listening in that, have some of those, either a challenge ahead of them like that or are dealing with it currently, like, what's some advice you could give them in terms of, as they look at, the authenticity of the brand, who they're trying to, who they're trying to reach, and then also that, kind of making sure that they're not, alienating any consumers, but also, leaning into specific issues and things of that nature. And maybe
that's a broad question there, Les.
Well, I was going to say, maybe this goes back to authenticity as well, right? I mean,
it really does, and I will go back to something I talked about when we were in Austin at South by Southwest for Brand Innovators, and that is don't rely solely on the data to inform your opinions in terms of authenticity. Be very careful that you actually get out and you talk with and you spend time with your target audience. Data is valuable when we're trying to understand big groups of people, but it doesn't provide the context necessary to navigate in waters that are more treacherous in some cases. So you really have to get out and speak with people and understand them on a personal level, understand the challenge on a personal level in order to really do this job well, or to do a job well that involves some of those more political aspects. Well, now I'm a big proponent of being careful with data overall, because I think it's a 4-letter word. So you gotta watch out for what it tells you. And many people can use data in very different ways. So I'm a big proponent of always getting that to your customers. But the more complex the decision-making process and or the product or service, the more imperative it is you get out and actually talk to people and be a good old marketer and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and then maybe touch a little bit on, you're in a big organization. Certainly there are a lot of, contributors or people that, need to sign off on things. Like, how does that get, put that on top of all the other complexity, right? Like, how do you go about tackling those, getting, your initiatives approved? Like, some insight there would be really, really helpful, I think, to some of the marketing folks on the call.
Yeah, we're lucky that Firstnet is a carved out organization within the broader AT&T, and it's built from experienced professionals in this field. Not all brand marketers have the luxury of that, right? And so because it's so detailed and nuanced, it's imperative that our group is allowed to operate somewhat autonomously from the larger AT&T organization because of exactly those things. The decisions we make are far, again, more complex. I hate to overuse that word, but more complex than what you might find in another product and service in the telecom space. So if as much as possible, try to build a constituency of experts that you can rely upon for these decisions.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys got like the Navy SEALs of the group and came in to be able to really move the needle and really bring this venture and make it successful. Have you measured your success so far?
Well, without divulging too many numbers, we're very successful. Awesome. There is a need for Firstnet in the marketplace, and as I think we mentioned, most teenage girls or boys have more technology in their hands than the average first responder, and that is deplorable. But they have been reliant on technology. Some of it, they're still completely dependent on two-way radios, and that's all they have to do their job. And so there's a huge need for this advanced communication and technology to be put in their hands, they're trained to use it so that they can do their job better. And so we have been extremely successful in the marketplace, and really, really proud of the efforts that the team has done to continue to push the envelope and deliver this technology for these groups of folks.
Yeah, as a citizen, it makes you feel good when you know that the people that are going to help have the right tools in place. And I think one of the overused sayings in the advertising business is, we're not saving lives, but I think that might change, and you actually might be doing that.
Well, yeah, I'm not personally saving lives, but the important folks that we support are, and that's why it's critical that the products and services we bring to market, they're aiding and assisting in doing that. It's really incredible. I mean, like I said, a teenager can get on Snapchat and do all sorts of things, but a first responder is stuck without this type of information. Now, things like even understanding how high above the ground level a first responder is would help us understand what floor they're on in a building, and then an incident commander can come in and better understand in an environment where there's smoke and debris and nobody can really ascertain what's going on. The technology will now allow us to pinpoint the location of these folks and help them do their job and get out safely. So it's rewarding at the end of the day. I'm lucky in the way that, you know, it's not just making ads, but it is rewarding because I feel like we're also making a difference.
Yeah, it you know, it kind of goes back to you know, I take it back to a lot of the brands that are out there, and you know, they're doing their thing, but they also have this this really great brand that is authentic, that is culturally relevant, that delivers every time. And I look back on a campaign like Nike's Crazy Dreams with, you know, Colin Kaepernick, and how they were able to take that and bring it to a lot of different places. And it was authentic to Nike, right? It didn't miss because it was perfect on the brand, and it, you know, it even ended up winning an Emmy. You know, what are some brands that you look up to and that inspire you as you kind of, you know, look forward and start to build and bring the Firstnet and grow that offering?
I knew you were going to ask this question somehow. Maybe it was the prep, but I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I've been noodling on it for some time now to try to figure out what those brands are. And I share a passion, like our former speaker, for the up and coming brands, the ones that are not necessarily doing big TV campaigns or can't afford to do big TV campaigns, but are really out in the marketplace, using everything they can, understanding their customers, making fast decisions, and putting smart, authentic marketing out there that's we may or may not see, because we may or may not be the target, but they are doing a phenomenal job of finding and being relevant to the people they're speaking to. Those are the brands that I'm really fascinated by right now. Not the big names, not the McDonald's. They're all good. They're all fine. But when you get to a point where you're so big and you're so mass, I think that your advertising work is judged more on its entertainment value than its real effectiveness. And that's unfortunate. You know, we always rate the Super Bowl commercials by which one is most liked, but we don't really talk about, well, which one actually did something to, you know, drive brand preference or consideration, because we're looking at advertising at that level as entertainment. I really like marketing where the advertising and the communications work is really trying to, you know, move somebody through the awareness funnel, help them understand what the product or service is, be authentic. And those tend to be the smaller brands that we may or may not really even pay attention to.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because, you know, as you were saying that, I thought to myself, well, Firstnet feels like a, you know, startup within a large organization. Like you're agile, you're authentic, you know, now it's starting to really parallel to me of you know, the mentality of a startup and really what you're doing, and it's some really great work.
Yeah, I think that's where some of the most interesting thinking is done, is when you're unencumbered by you know, a constant stock market number or a growth percentage, and you're allowed to truly deliver for customers what they need, and your brand will grow because of that. If you deliver for your customers, your brand will grow, your sales will grow. And I think all too often the biggest brands in this country, certainly, they approach it a little bit backwards from that.
Yeah, it's tough when you've got to deliver results every week. But, you know, I think one of the things that the mottos that I've kind of lived by is, you know, that'll all come. Like if you do everything else right, then that's the result that comes. It's not, like you said, it's not to do that first and then do everything afterwards, because once you do it backwards, you start to lose that authenticity, and you start to become, you know, kind of the wrong person in the consumer's eyes. And it sounds like you guys are building something there that's that you're doing it the right way. How do you see the organization, look in the future? Like, what does it look like to you, 5, 10, further years down the road?
Well, it's very hard to project, but I would imagine that as Firstnet continues to grow and becomes, a trusted and reliable partner for our first responders, I can see the organization beginning to regionalize so that we better understand what's going on in a particular region or a city, to get that one step closer to our customers.
That makes sense. Wanting to be in a, have boots on the ground, so to speak, in those specific markets. Add to that authenticity, right? I don't know that people from specific markets want someone coming in, and telling them how to do things, right? When you could have those politics and culture clashes going real quick right before you even open your mouth.
And a lot of the things that we address, whether it be a hurricane or a disaster of any type, happen on a regional level as well, right? And so what happens on that regional level is so critical to our business structure. AT&T has been, as an organization, has been a first responder ourselves for over 100 years, because anytime there is a hurricane or a tornado or whatnot, we are there to try to reestablish the basic utility services that keep the community alive and communicating. And so we've got regional disaster response centers across the country. Now we are, and working with Firstnet. Now we are partnering with them, and we are still a first responder ourselves.
That's awesome. These, this type of offering, there must be some maybe either different skills or some skills that you look for in your teams as they develop. Or is there any like one thing or a few things that you look for as you're hiring or building out your team that kind of stand out in some folks that are that would lead to success?
I don't think so. I mean, a strong marketer is a strong marketer across the board, and it requires you to get in and understand your customer and walk a mile in their shoes, in some cases quite literally. And so we look for strong marketers to do that job. And so I don't think it's anything particular to Firstnet. I think it's a skill set about understanding the customer base in order to be authentic.
And then, a little bit more kind of on your leadership style, like has that, coming on to Firstnet, has that changed the way that you're leading organizations? You certainly sound like someone with a lot of passion and caring and a caring leader. Has being at Firstnet, pushed that forward? Has it changed anything in the way that you're looking to lead people or the organization?
No, you're going off script, Les. I mean, you're completely all. I am not.
Questions.
Oh my gosh. It's important to be an empathetic leader across the board, and I would say that's just accentuated by the work we do with Firstnet. The other thing that's really, really important is to be very responsive. This is a world, whether you're EMS or fire, police or whatnot, that you have to be very responsive, agile in your approach to things. And so I would say that those are the aspects of my leadership that I've been working to finesse. And it's an ongoing process, of course.
Totally understand.
What about you, Les? What are you working to finesse?
You know what? I am working on a few things. I am trying to read more, mostly because I feel like there's a lot you get in the day-to-day action, but I like to understand people's perspective and kind of see what it looks like from there. I also ask a lot of questions, as you can tell right now, because I like to learn from people, not just, I said from reading, but also, from their day-to-day engagements. And I'm a big proponent of, trying it, and if you fail, to learn. I think hopefully long are the days where people are afraid to fail, where failure will, cost them their job, or they're afraid to get fired, or what have you, and it's more a learning experience.
Yeah.
And so, and the other thing that I would say too, and just, from me personally, is I am enjoying the new balance of kind of this new normal, right? Working from wherever, being there for family and friends when needed, going 110% when needed, knowing when to go 110 and when to, and I think, I hope that is making me a better, individual, a better husband, a better father, a better employee, in general. So yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of that has changed over the last 2 years, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, it has. We should have another session where we talk about the whole change in the work environment. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I listen, and I had a meeting a week or so ago at a corporate headquarters, and man, to tell you I was energized after that is an understatement. It really does get you going, and it to have that person-to-person conversation, right? That authentic dialogue with the brand, and being open and honest, and extending that partnership. I think there's nothing that beats that in our small little media world.
Yeah, but AT&T fiber comes close, so
AT&T, it does, but we can't. I'll have to walk down the street, and then we can reach out and touch each other.
There you go.
So I'll kind of finish with this one last question, and it sounds like you've been you're obviously very passionate about this. You're very caring and empathetic, and would love to hear what your proudest moment so far at Firstnet has been.
I would say when we shot a high production value commercial a couple years ago, and the temptation, of course, is to be very Hollywood about it and things like that. And while there were aspects behind the camera that were very Hollywood, in front of the camera was very authentic, and that's where we had real life first responders that knew how to pick up a fire hose and handle it correctly. And they were as interested in the product and service they were advertising in the commercial as we were in making the commercial. So it was a really great partnership. And I mean, it comes back to that singular theme about authenticity. That was one of my proudest moments, is to create something that actually features really features our target in there, using the products and services that they critically need.
That's awesome. And again, you can see the authenticity, the passion, all that, wrapped up in just this conversation. Hopefully we were authentic enough for the folks on the call. And looks like we've got Mike joining us back. So we'll kick it on over to him. Appreciate it, everything, Kirk. This was a great conversation.
Thank you. Mike feels very authentic today.
He is, although his background's a little blurry. That's not quite so authentic.
Well, I wasn't quite as authentic introducing Kirk earlier, but I don't think that affected the conversation. It was an excellent conversation. Really appreciated keeping the theme of authenticity from commercial at Butterfinger to more professional. With what AT&T applies the service to, it was really something. So thank you both so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, Mike. Thanks, Kirk. Be well.
So for our next session, it's actually from our Evolution of Retail event, and we'll be showing that fireside chat presently.
Thanks, Brand Innovators, for having us. My name is Alex Munger. I'm the Managing Director and Head of Client Vision and Experience at creative agency Arcanauts. And I'm thrilled to be here with Adam Hardy, VP of Marketing, and Josh Stevens, VP of Product at Current, the fintech company that is focused on creating better financial outcomes for people and their unique lives. Welcome, Josh and Adam. I thought I'd start by asking you to just introduce yourselves and perhaps providing a quick overview of Current for anyone who isn't familiar.
Sure. Well, I'm Adam Hardy. I'm VP of Marketing here at Current. I joined about 3 years ago. I have a background. Well, where do I start? I have a non-traditional background in marketing in that I started my career as an economist with the Bureau of Labor Statistics for 5 years. Pretty crazy, right? But pivoted from that into really performance marketing and user acquisition, which is super data heavy, into a broader marketing career over the course of about a decade. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to talk too much about myself. It's more important to talk about Current. Josh?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Josh Stevens, VP of Product here at Current. I've been here for 5.5 years, so at least around these parts, I'm a real old hand. But my background has been varied when it comes to consumer tech, worked in a variety of different consumer-focused products and companies. And actually, when I dove into Current, it was my first time working in fintech. But I think that I always kind of approached it from the sort of perspective of, fintech really shouldn't be any different than any other product. You need to make products and services and features that consumers love. And so it's been a big part of how we've approached trying to build things over here at Current. And maybe I'll just quickly say for folks who don't know what Current is, Current is a mobile-first bank account. We build products and services again for the 100 million plus Americans who are really left behind or overlooked by traditional banks. We obviously live in a crazy world these days in particular, but there's a large gap between those who have not in the United States, and that's really exacerbated within how people manage their finances. And Current is doing a lot to make sure that people have better financial outcomes.
That's great, thanks guys, and thanks so much for that. Such an important company, such an important offering, and congrats on all the success today. I guess recognizing that the agenda for this week here at Brand Innovators is all about setting the table for the year ahead. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about your personal and professional priorities at Current for 2022. What does success look like over the next 12 months?
Well, yeah, I can start a bit there. The personal and professional, man, pretty blended these days. It's really, we're a fast-growing company, and it's, give you a little bit of context, Current is about 180 people or so today. A few years ago when I joined, we were closer to about 20 people, right? And while the people have grown fast, the business has grown even faster, right? Several multitudes faster than that. And so for us, we went from like, hey, we need to do, a few things really well to, hey, we actually need to do a lot of things, to now, hey, we need to do a lot of things really well. And that's like a very, very basic version of what we're trying to do in 2022. It's not like, oh, there's all these new marketing channels that we need to explore. We're actually operating on all these marketing channels. How do we get better? How do we make each one of those more efficient, more smarter? How do we have them work together to build something greater than just their individual parts? Working on integration there, working on kind of those frameworks. That's a really big part of what we're trying to do in 2022, because getting bigger and scaling is not just a function of, oh, do what you did last year times 3.
Right.
You have to kind of change the way in which you approach it.
That's right. A whole different ball game now. Yeah.
I think, you know, just to chime in there, you know, a lot of what Adam and I do, and the reason we work so closely together is because marketing and what you are marketing, these things are not divorced from each other, right? We don't operate in different silos where, you know, Adam presses some button and all of a sudden everything works, you know, and it doesn't work from what I do if I'm not closely related to sort of what the general narrative of what we care about is. You know, at Current, right, we have this mission to enable our members to change their lives, right? And we believe we can change those lives through really motivational products that help solve their financial needs. So when we look at this year, it's heavily focused on trying to provide value back to our members. And that value is something that fits very directly into how we brand ourselves. It fits very directly into how we market ourselves. And so when we kind of look throughout this year, we've got a lot of really exciting products that are launching, and we're thinking very deeply about how do we make sure that we market those products and that we're messaging and positioning those products in a way that we believe will be successful.
That's great, Josh. And it's a perfect segue into my next question, as if by magic. So yeah, there's incredibly exciting goals there. And I know we're all going to be cheering you on, and you've got great momentum behind you. As you started to speak to there, in my experience working with a few different high growth companies, I've noticed that many tend to prioritize performance marketing over brand in their early years in order to really drive acquisition. And naturally, they can then sometimes, not always, but sometimes suffer a bit of a slowing down of their growth as the algorithm maxes out and, you know, return on investment can plateau. But Current seems built differently to that and bucking that trend. I think that's evidenced by the fact I'm speaking now with a lead from both brand and products who are clearly really well aligned. So I'd just love to hear about perhaps how at Current you've been able to really successfully balance both brand and product to grow the business, both organizationally and today as we move forward.
Yeah, well, it's I don't disagree with you there. It's in large part because we've cared about brand deeply from day one. And this is from well before I joined this company, right? This is brand at Current is not a marketing thing. It's a business thing. And it impacts all aspects of our business. It impacts what we build, how we build it, how we present it. It impacts our customer service, how we talk to our customers, what we offer them. It's a business strategy, not a marketing strategy for us, and that's really important. And so, yes, at an early stage company, performance marketing is critical because that's that's the driver of your numbers. That's the driver of acquisition. That's the primary driver of revenue. But really, your brand is your ceiling. And so, if you don't invest in your brand, if you don't take brand into consideration, well, then you hit that ceiling, earlier than most. And you talk about a ton of very successful companies who didn't take this into consideration. Later on they do, and they're like, oh man, brand matters. And then, if they spent all this money, they've acquired all these customers. Again, they've been really successful, but they're like, wait a minute, everybody thinks we're this and we want to be this. And then that becomes very, very difficult to change. And some brands are able to navigate that successfully, others are not. In many cases, at the very least, it slows you down, right? At one point, and it's funny thinking about these things in hindsight, right? But like Airbnb was couch surfing. It was a couch surfing app, right? And that was great, and it grew really successfully based on that. But they had to spend a lot of money and a lot of time to change people's perceptions on that, right? Snapchat was sexting for teens. You remember that? That was a real thing. That was the number one thing Snapchat was known for. And again, it took time to change that perception. But for us at Current, we've benefited from the fact that leadership at the company has prioritized brand from day one.
And I think, just to chime in on that, the reason for that is because when you think about the sort of broader consumer banking space, and you ask most people, like, what comes to mind when you think about your bank? These are not well kind of defined areas, and I think that's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is in being able to differentiate what is the narrative, what do people think about when they think about your brand, and use that as a competitive advantage. So you can certainly come up with innovation when it comes to products, But, to a large extent, you need to make sure that you are driving a certain element of the conversation so that people feel a certain way. And you need to rely on brand for that, which I think actually differs from potentially other kind of consumer first fields, certainly when it comes to consumer tech.
That's right. And I think it's clear that philosophically, there's such an alignment between brand and product and current. Be interested to just hear a bit about how, I don't know, maybe organizationally, you're able to break down those silos. Is there anything unique in the way that current was set up, or even just in the way that you work together, that has meant that, that a separation of brand and product hasn't happened?
I'd say a bit of it has to do with just ownership. Again, brand is not owned by marketing. It's not, it's not our job to deliver on our brand. It's the business. It's everybody's job. And again, starting with the CEO on up. And I think when it comes to that ownership and that level of responsibility, everybody and all the various department heads feel ownership over it. And it's true that they do, because look, if you are, again, leading our customer success department, you are building our brand. You are talking to our customers. You are the voice of current. How could you not be part of the brand? So I think that's really important, that everybody feels that ownership, because that reflects reality.
I think it means treating the brand as you would anything else you're developing within the company. It's like treating the brand the way you would treat, I don't know, in our case, swiping your debit card at Starbucks. Like, how do you make that a magical experience? And that means everybody needs to be involved in it. And I think that's a kind of maybe a difference from perhaps the other way some other folks treat brand, where it's a little bit of an afterthought.
That's right. That's fantastic. And I see some questions coming in from the audience. Keep them coming in. I think might just, because it's pertinent to this conversation, I might just surface Mark's question here. So Mark asks, what would you rather have, a strong brand or a strong business? Obviously, you're going to say both. But yeah, strong brand or strong business first?
A strong business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, no, you can have the best brand in the world, but if you don't have the underlying business, it doesn't matter. But I will say, again, the two are very intertwined, right? Because ultimately, especially when it comes to growing, you can only grow where your brand allows you to grow, and I think that's really important. And that's actually very specific to, that's in plenty of spaces, right? But really important within the financial sector, in terms of how consumers perceive what you are and what you can do, is super important.
Yeah, and also like there's when you talk about tightly intertwined, you can have a good business that can be a great business with a great brand, and you can have a great business that will not stay great if you don't invest in brand. And so I do think that there are two pillars there. The business needs to come first, but the brand is critical in order to maintain that and potentially amplify it.
That's right. And I think it's refreshing to hear, because of course, not all startups, and particularly over in our friends over in Silicon Valley would answer that question in that way. Brand might be the first priority. But I guess particularly in the financial sector, of course, you've got a due diligence that has to be in place. So that's reassuring. I think that another area where it's clear that brand and product is really well aligned at current comes to life in your approach to influencers and influence marketing. And I'm sure many of the audience have seen current in social, have seen the influencer activations come to life. But maybe you can just talk about how your history there and how you've embraced influence partnerships to be exactly that, a blend of both product and marketing.
Yeah. So I've been in the influencer space for quite a bit now, better part of the past decade, really. And in that world, I mean, 10 years ago was very different than what it is today, right? 10 years ago, it was, people would treat, I mean, first of all, the term influencer marketing wasn't even around, right? But literally, if you go back in the YouTube archives, you'll see people literally playing video ads on their video, and that was an ad placement in a video. And then as time's gone on, people have come to realize that it's not yes, you can buy media time with influencers, but that's not really the way to leverage that channel. It's cheaper and easier to do it a million other places, right? These influencers are really, really, the value comes in fandom, in their true influence. And so if you have an influencer who's plugging a product and is saying, hey, Current is great because they get you paid 2 days faster and they get you free overdraft and they get you, like, that's not a great utilization of that. And so for us, it's really important that we put forth a product in a way that's integrated with what the influencers want, which is great content. That's the thing that ties all this together, is how do we bring value? It's through great content. And so we have, it's not that, you know, our influencers are subject to our product and our talking points, etc. No, we have built for them. And that's what makes us, you know, that takes time, that takes resources, that takes focus, that takes energy, that takes, you know, influencers not being a marketing strategy, but really being a business strategy and building that alignment. And that's what makes it us compelling to influencers, is that, wait a minute, like, this is not, you know, just wasting 60 seconds of my fans' times. This is something that's actually interesting, that's actually integrated, that's relevant to them, relevant to me, and makes this content better. And so we've done this. Probably the best example is through Mr. Beast, and it's the best example because Mr. Beast is, you know, effectively the biggest YouTuber in the world. And you know, the Mr. Beast experience with Current is not Mr. Beast talking about Current in a video, right? It's actually Mr. Beast using Current. Mr. Beast, if for those of you listening who don't know, it's a huge YouTuber who's made much of his a career based on giving away money. It's kind of his thing, and he does it in his videos. And we're seen by him as a tool to be able to do this with fans, right? And now the influencer scene and creator economy, all that as it's matured, you've gotten a million different ways for influencers to make money from their fans. What Current has enabled them to do is the opposite. It's actually being able to give money to their fans at scale in a way that's actually practical. That's something that we've built for them. So with Mr. Beast, he's been able to give away money to, you know, hundreds of thousands of people in a way that otherwise wouldn't be practical. And that's very much his content. That's very much on brand for him. When you sign up for Current, at the same time, you're also not just getting a Current experience, you're getting a Mr. Beast experience in Current. That's everything from the messaging that you're getting to screens that you're seeing in the app to actual merch. We have a Current by Mr. Beast. I'm wearing it right now. A Current by Mr. Beast hoodie that's exclusively available in a Current Point store. And that's how you tell people that we are relevant. And this is unique, and this is what matters. That's how you signal that. And that's, you know. Anyways, I'm
that's
really
right
about the subject.
Yeah, it's great. I think everyone needs to see the hoodie. Everyone needs to see it.
But the point is to say that it's not just a marketing campaign, right? All of that is made possible through products, through engineering work, through business work.
And it's important for us because we don't want something that's not relevant, right? I don't want folks coming in and using Current because they are coming in by mistake, right? You want to come in because influencers, as with many other channels out there, have created incredible communities, right? And those communities are something we want to feel seamlessly part of. And so if we are working with an influencer and promoting ourselves through an influencer, when someone arrives in Current, they want to feel like this is just an extension of the community they're already part of. That helps make that a more kind of successful branding partnership, as well as a more successful kind of growth partnership.
That's right. And I think the integration with the product is something I particularly have admired. I think so often product can be the sacred thing, which can't be touched and can't be influenced by marketing. And you've really flipped that, you've embraced it, which is great to see. I think it's fascinating to hear about how the brand has really been built with that flexibility from the get-go. At Argonaut, we use this model called timely and timeless. So always considering what's the iconic elements of a brand, the memory structures and the strategies that really stand the test of time, while also, you know, still embracing the timely realities of the category, the customer culture. And today it's apparent in some of your MPD that you're also, you know, being mindful of what's timeless about the current brand and what's timely, what's relevant today. I wonder if we could hear a little bit more about that. I mean, you're expanding, or perhaps even you might argue returning into crypto. And I've got to believe that the metaverse Web3 is going to be a top priority for you in the year ahead. So maybe just talk a little bit about how you see those initiatives and how they can influence both brand and product.
Yeah, I can maybe jump in first, and then maybe Adam, you can give some of the nicer color. But for Current, we've always been focused on building products that solves needs and that can add value for our customers, right? And if you rewind 6 years ago, we kind of started out in crypto. A lot of folks here have deep kind of crypto backgrounds, but at that time, I don't think that as a we weren't quite ready for that. I think particularly when you think about what consumers were looking for, but it's gotten to a point now where we feel that there's a lot of really exciting technology that's emerging that hits that kind of desire to build, again, products that solve needs and services. I think at an even higher level, it's about providing members access. We want to provide access to experiences that enable the best financial outcomes. And so as we look throughout the next year, and we continue to keep a close eye on the market, we believe that there's actually a real opportunity to do kind of a hybrid financial model that blends the benefits of both traditional and decentralized financial systems. So, what does that mean? Well, I guess the way we like to think about it is, if you are buying something on Amazon or a coffee at Starbucks, right, the best experience is paying with a card. And that's something that Current enables very well. It's a big part of what we do, right? If you're looking to grow your money, the best experience might be a high yield account on a blockchain, right? And that's just an example of something that I think 3 years ago, it would have been very difficult to sort of speak to. But the fact that there are these products and opportunities that are kind of emerging that potentially can offer the best possible outcomes for our members, that blend effectively the security of traditional finance with the high yield potential of DeFi in this particular case, that's really cool for us. And I think it's been a key part of our brand from sort of the very beginning, is trying to offer the best financial outcomes for folks and offering the best opportunities for folks, and really trying to simplify what's otherwise complicated. Money is complicated. What are you supposed to do with your money? We see it all the time with our member base, but I hear it from my friends. I hear it from family members. What am I supposed to do here? And I think for Current, a big pillar of what we're about is trying to simplify those experiences and make it easier to make the right types of decisions.
I've got to think that, sorry, Adam, sorry, you go ahead.
No, I just want to add from, as we talk about brand, right? Having the brand that can extend into both of those areas, the old and the new, is difficult and unique, and I think a competitive advantage for us, right? Mm-hmm. Because ultimately, if you may be banking with Bank of America now, and whatever, they might not be screwing you over. But if they were to offer you a crypto product, you would be like, not really. What do you know about crypto, right? That's outside of the wheelhouse. It's the antithesis of what they stand for. You trust them in the traditional banking world, and that's what their brand allows them to operate in. And at the same time, if I were to tell you, if there's one of these crypto first companies, maybe a crypto.com, a Coinbase, et cetera, if they were to come in and say, hey, we want to be your bank, we want to do your banking, you should move all your money to us, you'd be like, I'm not really sure, right? I'm not sure if I trust you with that. I do trust you with this other stuff, though. And so we feel like we have a unique positioning in that we can bridge both of those worlds and do so in a way that's authentic to what we are.
I find it particularly interesting that perceptions of maybe the customer base that you've grown, the underbanked or unbanked, and the sort of natural inclination is to think, well, we need to just provide the simple, straightforward products that are going to be the most important, sort of foundational level products for them. But actually, you've some really interesting and complex financial products, which are going to, again, ultimately, help with your goal of helping create this sort of financial stability for people. And I think that's really interesting. And Lisa Girding in the chat here asked a question related to that. And Adam, I think it's a good one for you. How do purpose initiatives? She mentioned sustainability, D, E, and I. And I think particularly interestingly, financial literacy. What role do they play in your marketing efforts?
Well, for us, it's about bringing value to people. That's really what drives us. We want to improve people's financial outcomes, and we do so by bringing value from these financial systems into their world and being able to translate that, because there's a ton there, right? And we've done this. This is something that's been part of Current's DNA from 6 years ago, and we've done this through various products. In fact, our first product to market was a teen banking product, right? Where 6 years ago, teens had zero access to banking, right? They could not open up a bank account. We offered the ability to get into the financial system. You talk about a lot of our products historically that have brought people who have been underbanked or unbanked into the financial system. You now talk about again being able to bring a lot of this stuff in the new financial world that's very complex and that's very hard to understand, and packaging that in a way and bringing that to folks that is going to bring them value. And for us, that's like a strong mission in itself, is bringing value that has historically been available to very few, and again that exists today, and bringing those to the masses. That's really our mission.
Great, Adam. Thank you. I think I might shift gears a little bit to talk about talent. Of course, we've got many people in the audience today who'd be really interested to hear more about what makes for a great marketer at Current, or a great product person at Current. And Adam, you recently mentioned that in your role, you've got 3 key priorities: growth, brand building, and creating the best marketing team in New York City, which as someone sat in New York right now, I love to hear. And I'd like to just spend a minute talking about that last one. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you look for in talent as you build your marketing organization? And I guess on the flip side of that, how does Current attract and retain the very best?
Well, I won't be humble about this one because the best attract the best. No, but
that's a great line.
It's about hiring people who are the right fit, right? You don't ever want to hire somebody who is not the right fit for the role. That's like the most costly thing you can do within your organization, right? And if you are having to pitch something that's not the reality, you're headed down that direction. And so we're very honest about who we are at Current, right? And if you're at the point in your career where, hey, or your life or whatever, where you're looking to more so be like, hey, I want to be, for lack of a better term, a cog in a system and just kind of coast, this is not the place to do it, right? You'll have a miserable time here, I could promise you. But if you're looking to have real impact, this is like think of a better term here. I can't think of it. A really great place. Let's go with. This is why I hire great creatives. It's the ability. Look, we're a multi-billion-dollar company, but yet we're only about 180 people here. The ability to have that level of impact and come in at any level in the organization, across the organization, is really special. And so we attract people who are looking for that. And so it's a little bit self-fulfilling in that way.
Yeah, I think we talk about it a lot, is trying to find folks who are willing to get into the weeds and come up with the recommendation, as opposed to folks who are sitting there waiting to be told what to do. And the truth is that people who take on the onus and are excited about the idea of taking very complex problems and finding more innovative solutions, that's not everybody, right? But because those are the roles we have, and that's the type of place we have, it naturally brings together a group of extremely talented, creative, smart people. And I think we've been really lucky thus far in having that.
Great, Josh. And thanks, Adam. Yeah, the best attract the best. Love that. I selfishly, and I guess for my sort of fellow strategy and creative agency folk in the audience, I'd also be really interested to hear how your partner agencies fit into that mix, or whether that's at Current or more philosophically about how you view that partnership between the external team and your internal talent.
We just want the best outcome, right? And so often that means that a lot of the strategy is done here internally, but that we tap into various partners who are best at what they do, because again, we want to be the best, and so I don't have one overarching philosophy on like, oh, everything needs to be in-house, or actually no, we should tap into agencies as much as possible. It's on a case-by-case basis, but certainly we have some amazing work that's done by agencies.
Great to hear. There's I'd love to open the floor up to the audience to ask a few more questions, but there's one from Mubarak Ali, which I think would be Adam. I'd love your point of view on. Yes, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self, and why?
Not
that many years ago.
I think the importance of picking companies is critical, and picking companies based on people. Ultimately, that's gonna that's gonna determine your growth more than anything else. So
how about you, Josh?
People, and I just say lots of people go for like titles and go for maybe like responsibilities and go for higher, but like ultimately, if you're not part of if you're not witnessing success and you're not working with smart people, you're not actually growing. You might get better titles and bigger responsibilities and this and that, but you're not learning the right thing.
Yeah.
And you're not truly growing. And so that's what I tell my 25-year-old friends. I have some.
Yeah, I mean, I love this question, and the fact that I love this question like displays my age, which is a little frightening. But I think the thing I would just say is be humble and like really learn in and be okay with what you don't know. I find if I look back on my 25-year-old self, there's always a little bit of insecurity. I don't have a full grasp on this. I'm not as good as this as I think I should be. But that's when you get into that mindset, it's when you really start to learn. It makes you more comfortable with asking questions. It makes you more comfortable reaching out for folks to ask for help. And I don't know that we celebrate that enough. Certainly not here. I'm not sure we celebrate the point of someone saying, I just don't know, because more often than not, someone is willing to help and help you learn. And I think it has like really profound impact on the way people can develop.
That's great. I just, nobody asked me this question, but I'm going to chip in and just say, swing for the fences. Go for it. I think often people who are just starting out in their career feel that they have to be deferential and listen and learn, and of course they do. There's an element of that, but also go for it. Bring your point of view, bring your unique expertise. So, yeah, thanks for the question, Mubarak. I'm looking at Sydney and Brianna to see if we have a little bit more time. There's a couple more questions, but I want to be mindful of the rest of your day.
You have a couple more minutes.
Okay, great, thanks. So switching back to current, we've done a little bit about talent and about philosophy on career growth. And there's a good question here from Pamela, who's asking about current and international expansion. She is saying that she would love to have you in Europe. And as a native Brit, I can wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, any plans for international expansion?
Yeah, we'd love to get there as well. I think for now, we certainly feel that we've got our hands full with the complex U.S. market, but we always look at all options and are constantly considering how to continue to grow in the most ambitious way.
Fantastic.
Maybe Southern Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that little thing, Brexit, which has been a thorn in my side for a while, but let's not get into that. Mubarak lastly asked another great question, which is which companies, brands, or institutions do you like or do you think are getting it right? I'm not sure, Mubarak, whether you had a particular category or particularly from a marketing point of view or product point of view, but let's leave it open. What do you think? What do you think, Josh?
Adam, you want to grab this one? I know you like this question.
Well, in the financial space, not many, very, very few. And I think that's really like, you talk about good business versus good brand. Well, there's been a lot of good businesses that have survived, right? Let's see, I hate speaking well of any of our competitors. So
I'll speak outside of our space and just talk about a brand and a product that I think nails it. And it's not at all a tech product, but if you talk about something simple like Harmless Harvest, I think I continuously am in awe there. It's an incredible product that every time you take off the shelf is good and you feel good about having it. So to me, it's a great example of, to one of your earlier questions, like the business is strong and the brand elevates it. And that's something that to me like continuously impresses.
All right, that was an amazing conversation. Always love hearing about innovations in that space. So asking our virtual audience to help me welcome our next group of speakers, featuring Mariana Kogan, the CMO of People AI, who is conversing with our very own E.B. Moss, Senior Vice President of Content and Community here at Brand Innovators. We're all excited for an amazing conversation. Welcome.
I am unmuted, I think. Yay. Hi, everyone.
I am unmuted as well. It's working well. So super happy to be here. Hey.
Well, thank you, Mike. And Mariana, you are the important person in the room. So I'm glad you're unmuted. It's great to see you again.
Very nice. I really am excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And thank you for, for hosting this, great conversation. I'm looking forward to talking with you and all the audience.
I know. I do have to say that you and I had a little prep call in advance, and thank goodness, because I am not even right brain, left brain. I don't know which it is, but we're going to count on you as the tech expert. So with that, I'm going to take a quick sip as I choked myself up. I'm so excited to see you. Sorry about that. I swear it's not COVID. Anyway, I wanted to give a little quick explanation of where you work, but I want to acknowledge the fact, wow, I really am choked up. I want to acknowledge the fact that you are one of our more tech-oriented CMOs here today. I'm going to stop talking for a second and put myself on mute as I clear my voice and ask you, though, to explain in its simplest path what People AI really is and what's the value proposition that you're marketing.
Perfect. I'm going to let you have your water. Please make sure that you're okay. And yes, very excited to be talking about People AI. As a little bit of a background for everybody, I joined as a CMO a few months ago, but I actually bought from People AI in 2019. So I've been a customer for the last 3 years before joining them, which is really, really exciting. So People AI, the brand, just look at it, people.ai. Our why, it's all about people, artificial intelligence. How do we really help people to perform better so that companies can achieve better results? If you think about it, in the sports world, every sports professional has so much data to really help them to optimize and maximize their performance. And why is it that in the business side, we don't do that? From a GTM perspective, sales professionals, more than anything, we really help, sales organizations, sales professional to really, really optimize their productivity by learning through artificial intelligence. What is that ideal path? We help people to really maximize their interactions with customers so that they can really, increase the deal size, increase the volume of deals, accelerate time to closure, so that we can really support delivering growth. So that's pretty much what, what People AI does, that combination of people and artificial intelligence.
Well, I think that frames everything up that I want to talk about today, that balance of human and tech, the magic and the math, as we say. And so that's why before, when I was choking, I really wanted to frame up our conversation as delivering a lot of that kind of information. But let's start with the human part. Let's start with you. There was an interview that you did in Hispanic Executive, and it opens by you saying, I'm going to quote this, "I've always really liked to do different, bold, unique things since I was of a very young age." So I'm going to ask you, like what, including the fact that I know that you went from Mexico to Japan.
Yes, so I know that's a whole history on its own, right? So I'm born in Mexico City, but when I was 7 years old, I asked my parents to send me to a Japanese school. So now I'm in Mexico City, growing up in a Japanese school. By the time that I finished high school, all what I wanted to do was to live in Japan. I love writing Japanese, talking about the left and the right of the brain. I love with a passion Japanese characters. So I moved to live, in Japan. So that's kind of when I started to be empowered to do different things. By the time that you're born in Mexico and you grew up in a Japanese place, and then you move to Japan, and then you start doing technology, it's all that I think empowered me at a very young age to really feel like I didn't have to really be following the norm, that I was empowered, that I had the right, the permission just to be whoever I wanted. And part of that, it was, I moved to Japan. Then I did some investment banking, and then I moved into the technology space. And then I went to start leveraging technology to deliver growth. So it's always been about what is it that makes sense? Rather than thinking about what is it that I should be doing because everybody's doing it, it's a little bit more of what is it that makes sense? A little bit to that, the first question that you asked me, really, what is that input that has a process that delivers an output? If you can digest that portion and you have the passion, the tenacity, you can do big things. And I'm a big believer that almost like a go big or go home. So that's a little bit where that phrase came from on that. In a very good article. I actually enjoyed the person that wrote it did a really good job.
They did. I highly recommend it. And I personally will tweet out a link to that Hispanic executive article as well. Now, that last role, you were at PTC, I believe, when you got back from Japan and you had been an economist and you moved into technology. It's fascinating. You actually won an award, a Forrester Award, by leveraging a people AI tactic or platform. And then you came to people AI. So you're really authentically there.
Yes, and I think that I was listening to some of the other speakers in the previous session where they were saying that, you really need to follow your passion. You really need to be authentic to yourself. So at PTC, I had a challenge, as most of the marketeers. By now, about what is it? 70% of the buyer's journey is online. I was leading, the digital experience of PTC. We needed to deliver more growth. So I couldn't quite just continue doing the same things. So I tried to solve for, rather than casting the net too wide, rather than doing marketing activities and sales activities without having intelligence, rather than asking customers and prospects to fill in a form so that I will call them tomorrow, which sounded like by now really old school. So I'm like, okay, we need to modernize that. And it wasn't going to be about working harder, but really working smarter. And if you think about it, it's the digital transformation of the world, which is, and I know sometimes that word gets thrown around so much that it loses a little bit of its power, but it is leveraging technology to solve business problems. So I had a problem. I needed to leverage technology. And that's when, I went to build the next generation revenue engine, the pipeline printing machine that, leveraged, people AI technology. So that was, I bought in 2019. We won together, Forrester, program of the year in 2020. And then it was like at some point, you just believe too much on what the company is doing, on the why, the what. You start getting to know the executives, you trust what they're doing. And that's how I decided to come and join them. I really think that is the future of the world.
Well, I have a feeling that they are very happy that you are bringing all of those skills and insights to people AI. So what I'd love to do is now take it a little bit more general. We've talked about what people AI is. We've talked about your path to it and why you joined it. You're in a new role. You've been there how long now?
It's by now about 3 months.
3 months. Okay, so you're in that first 90 days, as the book is so well titled. What kind of priorities did you set for yourself for that kind of new role? And then I'm also going to ask you, how you had to adapt, or what other new to the role marketers might think about.
It is a very interesting question, because you're starting to talk about, the modern definition of the role of the CMO. Yeah. And a lot has changed. I'm actually in the process of writing an article for Forbes magazine on the topic, because the role has changed a lot. And it is a complicated role, because if you think about it, CMOs are responsible for so many disciplines. We represent the customer. Yeah. We have to be spending, plenty of time, because we have, brand, we have communications, social media, analyst relations, really hugely important in the B2B technology space. You then have product marketing, you have your positioning, you have messaging, then you have demand generation. You also have your digital experience, your website. There's so many things that it really becomes about that prioritization. And going back to my initial comment, now that close to 70% of the buyer journey is online, one of the main responsibilities is to really deliver quality pipeline like by yesterday, which is complicated on its own right. But I think that we're going to continue seeing that shift towards marketing having to be much more accountable for, pipeline revenue as the world continues becoming more digital, more hybrid. So for that, definitely the priority number one is in really getting that customer-centric demand generation pipeline printing machine that is going to be fueling the growth that is so important at a company like People AI that is going through hyper growth.
I know that you not only represent the voice of the customer, you've mentioned the voice of the product and the voice of the industry. So how do you balance that B2B kind of messaging with B2C kind of messaging in marketing a business brand?
It's I think it's almost taking a new approach to, at some point, B2B was thought as we sell into buildings. Therefore, we can continue using a fax machine. It's companies, it's big buildings. I think that was kind of the sentiment, versus the way that by now it's evolving, the way that I see it, it's really that almost B2H. It's business to human.
Human. Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
If you think about it, we do sell into very large enterprises, but that said, it's not the enterprise that you're going to be engaging with. You are selling into the enterprise that is going to be signing the contract, but you're really helping an individual to really excel again at their job. You're really helping them to find a solution to a problem. You're really helping them to maximize the potential of a new opportunity. And in order to be able to help people, you really need to think and be customer-centric, customer first. Even in the B2B space, it really means to write content that delivers that human connection. You are writing, you are creating campaigns that are really going to be touching the heart of another human. That's why the way that I see it, that as much as we talk about B2B, and yes, B2B has a complexity that you're going to have to touch many, many people before you can get the order. But at the end of the day, you are really looking to help that person to be human, to be emotionally connecting, to be customer centric, and to start really thinking about an experience that at the end of the day, all these people that I need to influence, they do spend, a lot of time with Netflix.com and Amazon.com. So the expectations, and again, that makes the role of the CMO for a B2B company a little bit more challenging. The expectations are the same ones that a B2C company has. There is nothing that allows my personas, my target to say, okay, now that I'm going to be talking to Mariana, now a fax machine, it's okay. Now everything old school, it's okay.
Right.
No.
That's fun. And I appreciate that. And it's interesting because I'm going to shill for my company a little bit. I think a large part of what Brand Innovators does is to humanize the executive. It is to give you the opportunity to share content that's thoughtful, that frames up exactly what your company does in real words. So yeah, we're very meta here right now.
That is super, super cool. But I think that you're hitting in a very, very important point. And again, that's why it's so critical that as a CMO, you spend a lot of time with your customers. Again, I'm very lucky that because I was a customer, I am more like a customer facing type of a CMO. So I take so many calls during the week from customers, from prospects, really understanding that human component. So that, because at the end of the day, what I'm looking to do, what People AI is looking to do, it really helps those individuals to perform better so that they can get promoted, they can deliver company growth. It really becomes that ecosystem of helping each other, which I think it's important in this day and age.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something that you sort of dropped in there before, and that was also in your Hispanic executive profile, that you said these days close to 70% of a buyer's journey is done in the digital space. So marketing has to deliver much more than before, so you have to work smarter, which of course dovetails into the rationale for what People AI does. But what's an example, if we keep our marketer to marketer hat on, of what tactics we're using to work smarter? And is there a shift in, more traditional to sort of newfangled that helps us work smarter?
So I really believe that at the core, working smarter, it really means that you have your data.
It all comes back to data.
It all comes back to that input, process, output, because it is a data that is going to allow you to see what's working, what's not working. It's data that is going to allow you to be able to see, is my digital experience really up to what my customers are expecting?
Mm-hmm.
Is my content really helping people? So if I was going to think a little bit about trends in marketing, and we spoke about the human connection, I really think that is starting to move towards that business of experience.
Experience. Tell me more.
It is experience. It's a business of experience, because you are really, in order to help to solve a problem, as you say, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, email, PR, you're going to be able to tell a story that is connecting. You're going to be able to choose the keywords that allow you to really meet the right person at the right time. I always use examples like, if you're searching for Chinese food, you might be writing a paper on Chinese food. If you're looking for a Chinese restaurant near me, open now, you're really hungry and you really want to eat Chinese food. So if you have that data, even in the B2B space, if you have that data, those keywords would allow you to write the right content that you can now, through technology, deliver to the right person at the right time. And once that you deliver and then they come to the website, you really need to start delivering on that experience, your brand, you're creative. Everything really has to be in alignment to be able to, at the end of the day, to be able to facilitate that people find the solution to their problem or challenge. And actually, similar to you, I'm going to read from here that it's 63% of consumers are willing to pay a premium for a simple, easy experience. And 70% are more likely to recommend a company to a friend if they provide a simple experience.
Simple experience. Yeah, make it easy for me, please. I'm begging you. Right. And for that, I might give you more data.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just think about it. Anytime that you're Googling something and you find that solution and you read and you click and you go to a website that, again, from a branding perspective, from a creative perspective, from a usability perspective, it allows you to find what you were looking for. You're going to be more than willing to sign up for a newsletter or to sign up for the next event. I mean, that's one of the things that we spoke about, when we touch base. We're starting to see that people are looking to participate in physical events,
yes,
hybrid events, digital events. But now you're starting to have that data. They've given you the permission. You have earned the permission to have a connecting relationship by which you trust each other. Now you're not just asking randomly, hey, nice to meet you. Do you want to give me your email? No, I deliver something of value. You are now feeling comfortable to trusting that most probably my next email is going to have value and that the event is going to have value. And then when you go to your boss and you say, hey, I heard about this technology, I think it's going to really make us, improve our results. There's going to be that trust that is needed, and it's really important, especially both, of course, in B2C, but in B2B, when we need to sell to, I don't know exactly the average number, but a buying group is maybe 7-10 people easily. Having that trust that earns us the right to have a much more humanly connecting experience. It's at the core of what we do as in marketing.
Okay. And then the other T word along with trust, I think you're going to tell me, is test.
Exactly. You're there. I know you're a little bit shy on your data knowledge, but
I am. Right brain, left brain.
You know that it's about, that testing, because we have hypotheses.
Yeah.
And then the more that you get into, testing, the data will tell you what is it that you need to test. I always warn people not to overuse testing to settle internal differences, but really to use testing to see what is it that really helps to deliver the results that, as you asked me at the very beginning, the results that I have to deliver as a CMO, but also the results that I'm looking to deliver by being customer-centric. And you start getting into that flying wheel that is everybody working together, your customers, because eventually your prospects are going to become customers, and then you want to be them advocates of your brand. That starts getting that flying wheel that delivers hyper growth.
Okay. And that data and that testing lets you further personalize everything. Now, are we at a scary point with personalization, do you think? Or is it still, no. Spoken as a data scientist, you'll say no.
But that's a really good question on personalization. I think that we're at a point that it allows you to deliver the right content to the right person at the right time. When there is value,
value exchange. Yeah.
Again, if you go back to Amazon.com, I mean, isn't it really nice that you're looking to buy something and then they tell you, hey, you should also get these?
Right.
It's highly personalized, but again, what a wonderful idea when you bought the thing and you would have missed the cable. That level is when personalization is used to deliver an experience that delivers value, that you have the right balance of personalization through data.
Okay, I understand. And if I understand, then I think you're doing great. So what are some of the cool new tactics that you're embracing? I mean, you're such a tech forward and savvy marketer. Again, probably more unique on this panel or this summit in particular, with your hands-on experience and developing award-winning platforms. So what's cool that you're loving these days that you're embracing to market People AI yourself?
A lot of the work that we're doing currently, it's really on combining intent data with engagement data. That
the
allows
intention to buy and those who have already engaged with the brand or product. So you're measuring both.
Yes.
And that sounds like customer journey language to me.
Exactly. Because at the very beginning, and especially for all of our audience that is looking to deliver that, almost like a faster, path to pipeline and to revenue, you tend to have a big bucket of accounts that they have intent. They're showing you that they're in the market. They want something like what you have or something similar. They're willing to learn. So the next step is, again, leveraging technology to really get them to engage with you in the marketing space, because now you can have campaigns that are very well targeted. Mm-hmm. And then you can really make sure that you're in alignment with sales so that sales can continue the engagement. This way, I stop losing or creating friction between marketing and sales, and you're fully aligned. So that's a lot of what we're doing, now, building all the connections that we need to have, behind the scenes, so that we can really get into that, personalization. There are some great companies out there with, personalization tools that allow you to relatively easily deliver an experience that is, again, personalized, is connecting. So that's where we're spending a lot of our time these days.
And specifically, any other social tools? I mean, is there a place for you on TikTok or what have you? Any specifics that you, or even if not for your own company, what are you loving these days?
Yeah. So currently, we are primarily leveraging, as we mentioned, LinkedIn, Twitter. We were a little bit slow on our, Instagram. We have a product that is very end user, very fun, allows you to really increase the productivity of the data entry. That one, I think you're going to be seeing some really cool stuff coming up soon.
Okay.
Absolutely. We were a little bit behind there.
I'm on the edge of my seat. So I think, just to shift gears for a second, we know that there is more to a company than its brand and more than its marketing message. But that goes hand in hand with something you're very vocal about, which is diversity. And I know you have some stats to back up your comments about the financial outperformance of diverse companies. Let's get into that area of creating a brand. Tell me more.
Yes, that's a topic that I speak a lot, and I'm happy to share some links after the talk, because as you say, a brand growth, it's at the end of the day your people.
Yeah. Your people.
We are only, it's back to people. And you have to have the best people. And in order to have the best people, you have to have a leadership style. You have to have an executive team with a leadership style that really lets you bring the best people to the table and make sure that there is a table where everybody feels comfortable to share their opinion, no matter how different and unique the opinion can be. So, some of the stats, and I have them here. It says companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on executive teams were 25% more likely to have above average profitability than companies in the next quartile.
25% more profitable.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was 15% just in 2014, and then it went to 17. Now we're 25. I'm a huge believer, and I think it was McKinsey that came up with a lot of these numbers, that more diverse companies are more innovative, and more innovative companies are more diverse. You're just prioritizing bringing the best people. And I think it was Steve Jobs that is quoted saying that, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go further away, you have to come with your team. You have to do it together.
Great reminder.
And for that, diversity and inclusion, it's extremely important. I mean, if you think about even from a gender perspective, it's only 25% of women take 25% of computer roles. Then in that 25%, Asian women make up a 5%, Black woman 3%, and Hispanic woman a 1%. So I see it as it is my obligation, it is my responsibility to lead teams, to work in companies where we're really making sure that we're pulling up people, we're pushing up people, because that goes back to your initial question.
Yeah,
that's a win-win scenario for everybody. So it's something that is really important and close to my heart.
Yeah, and two follow-up questions on that, or a comment and a question. The first is that, an interesting point was made about those who claim that they can't find diverse talent. Well, we now have a global pipeline thanks to tech. Here I go again, all choked up. Sorry, everybody. Is there a mentor that brought you along you'd like to give a shout out to? How did you get into this space?
Yes, there are a couple of people that saw my potential even maybe before I saw it. I started working in the technology industry because of Dan Johnson. He was the CEO of American Financial Systems, and he saw that I could do maybe more than back in the day I thought that I was maybe capable of doing. And then at PTC, Barry Cohen, phenomenal. He really helped me through making it to that point where you feel comfortable driving the strategy, having a voice. So I'm going to be forever grateful to the people that pulled me up, and only makes it even more of a responsibility for me to make sure that I do the same thing, to the following, generation. But going back to your point on that, when people say that they cannot find diversity, as you say, by now technology, LinkedIn, I mean, it's there is no excuse on not being able to find diverse talent. What tends to happen is that, yes, of course, people tend to bring their friends from the previous company, and you're going to be bringing people like yourself, not on purpose. It's just the people that you like hanging out with.
Yeah, birds of a feather.
Exactly. So I think that's a little bit more the area that we need to break. I like working very closely with my HR and recruitment teams on making sure that, and this we did it at PTC and work extremely well. I mean, if you put an ad recruitment, that has 20 requirements, we know that a woman is going to try to meet the 20. So maybe make them a little bit shorter. If you're going to be interviewing people that are from, other backgrounds, maybe have the first interviewer be somebody that is a little bit more, closer to, to their background, just so to you yourself. It's a couple of things that will help a little bit more people, so that then you can really get the best talent. So, but by now that shouldn't be a reason that there's not enough diverse talent out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you sort of foist an international mentality upon yourself by going from Mexico to Japan. I'm sure that influenced your leadership skills. What other kinds of experiences do you think prepared you for a leadership role? And what would you advise others who haven't been to Japan?
I will advise them to visit Japan, but I would say that, and I'm sure this applies to you and everybody who's got a career that is developed throughout years, is be comfortable trying new things. Be comfortable being the one that raises a hand to take on the new project. Be comfortable being the one that is accountable for a deliverable. Be comfortable trying different things. As you mentioned, I'm an economist, then I went to business development, went into process improvement. Be comfortable that it's never going to be the way that you saw it in the magazine.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of challenges. There's going to be a lot of problems, but be comfortable with all that. Work with people that you trust. Work with people that believe that you can do the next thing. When people ask me about leadership, I really think that I make it a priority for me to really set a clear vision, empower my people, set high expectations so that I can really start developing internal talent.
Oh.
And in order to do that, you have to have people that are very comfortable trying new things and knowing that it's going to be hard. Ask questions. If you're in a new project, be the one that excuse me, can you clarify what is the goal? Do you mind if I put a 30 minutes in your calendar to make sure that we're on the same page?
Right.
It's something that we really appreciate because it allows for a little bit more of a personal, connection. It allows you to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So be comfortable with failing, but have the data so that you can course correct very quickly. Going back to my data.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I have two questions. One is to kind of go back to your love of data. And you and I talked about how brand marketing and demand or performance marketing are not counterintuitive. Will you tell us a little bit about how you balance those by using data? Because I know you've got a little trick up your sleeve. And then we'll wrap it with one more question after that.
Yes, I think that you're starting to talk about the whole concept of brand to bookings.
Yeah, awareness versus performance.
You can put it right now all together. Again, we actually work with your PR company. Make sure that all the activities are really in alignment to deliver that demand generation, that performance that you needed. Because yes, as a CMO in the C-suite, you are going to be heavily hold accountable to delivering pipeline, to delivering revenue. So it's very important that you put the two together so that you are looking after your brand that is a little bit from a longer term play, but in the short term, you're really connecting it so that you can deliver on the numbers.
I love it. That sums it up beautifully. And I think that's a right brain, left brain answer. So I valued that. So then just to sort of put a finishing touch on it with a future vision, we'll do a crystal ball or even a wish list, if you will. Is there a trend, a technology, an opportunity, something that you personally, aside from how and what you're marketing, that you're really jazzed about? I mean, do you already own Oculus Rift? What's going on? What do you love?
It's we're going to be participating in a few conferences in May, and it's one of the areas that the team is working on. How do we really transform experiences so that when you come to the conference, you're really looking forward, not just a sales pitch, it's really to almost like viscerally to really experience what is it, that improvement that I was talking about when it comes to that people and the AI. How is it that you can experience? So I saw something really, really cool. I'm not there yet. But it's a technology from, I think it's a company in Holland that allows you now to bring almost like a container, like a truck, and you can have the four walls of that, augmented reality, virtual reality.
Yeah.
That would allow you almost like, again, connecting that B2C, B2B, or what we watch on the TV shows where they're like showing data and then they make decisions, creating that, co-pilot. That I think is going to be super exciting. I'm not there yet, but I'm looking forward to build something of that nature. Absolutely. That would be super. Can you imagine experiencing the brand, the product, the why, the how, all in a way that you can almost feel it?
Yeah. Well, I remember pre-pandemic, and of course, I'll just bring up Japan again. It's so forward thinking, and the virtual malls that that country first came out with a lot of AR, VR technology where you could virtually try things on, but you still had the experience of being in a shopping mall. And I'll leave with my favorite new thing that I think is so important. And I think it encompasses tech and diversity and things and inclusion. And that is, I just read that Snap came out with a filter that enables and facilitates American Sign Language. So, yeah. So data and tech, we love it. Mariana Kogan, we love you from People AI. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure, and I really, really enjoy our conversation.
Thank you. And happy to toss it back to the fabulous Mike D'Elia.
Thank you, Evie. Again, thank you both so much for your time. It was an amazing conversation. What a way to tie leadership back into tech. So really appreciate both of your thoughts there. So our next panel and next up on the stage, we'll be joined by Carla Dunham, CMO of Foxtrot, who's leading a discussion moderated by Eric Green, Senior Director, One Platform Marketing at NBC Universal. So pleased to have both of these folks join us on the stage very soon. Hello.
Thank you, Mike.
Of course.
Ready to get started? Hi, Carla.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here today. We're very excited to get started and learn more about you and your experience. I know we're just meeting now for the first time, but trust me when I say I've read a lot about you, heard a lot of interviews and blogs, and we're excited to kind of get going here. So just a quick introduction about Carla. Carla, CMO at Foxtrot, contemporary evolution of Corner Store and Cafe. As CMO, she oversees merchandising and marketing, leading efforts to redefine what a healthy and fresh convenience store really is. Prior to Foxtrot, she was vice president of marketing at Equinox, vice president of global brand strategy at Kate Spade, head of social media and digital partnerships for Amazon Fashion, and senior director of social media at Saks Fifth Avenue. So her resume is pretty robust, to say the least. She has an undergraduate degree in English literature from Purdue, an MA in art history from the University of Chicago, and a master's in art history from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. So Carla, jumping right in, how does one go from getting her master's in art history to one day redefining the way consumers think about a convenience store?
Oh, that's such a great question, because I think it's not as circuitous as you might actually think. I think the best marketers are ultimately highly curious about culture and really connected to how the world is visually represented and how it's communicated. And so in many ways, that transition from being an art historian to going into being a leader in business was much more natural than you might at first suspect. I think in the roles that I'm in today, we often describe ourselves as being the next generation brand, a brand that is anticipating customer needs and wants. And in doing that, you really have to be highly curious about what trends are emerging and how your customer is connecting with you. And I think that that ability to connect both possibility and potential from a business standpoint is rooted both in my art history background as well as my business degree. So
Love it. No, that's great. And you talked about brand, and at NBCU, that's all we kind of talk about, building brands and connecting brands. We represent a one platform mentality, which is anything from Bravo to E to NBC Sports, anything that the light touches underneath the Comcast umbrella, we're able to take to our brands and build their story. So storytelling is really the heart of everything we do here at NBC Universal. And I'd love to know, what does storytelling mean to you, and what is your personal brand story?
Oh, I mean, I just love that. I think to be a brand today, I always say you have to not only have a narrative arc, but you've got to be able to peel that into different chapters, right? Because the reality is, just as you pointed out, customers are engaging with you 24/7, and they're not doing it simply through one modality. And that's very true in the environment that we exist in at Foxtrot, where customers might come in and get to know us through our retail stores, and then bop onto the website, place their first delivery order, and then have such a great experience that they're then connecting with us regularly through our app. All of those different touch points exist in what we like to say is the Foxtrot ecosystem, but they're not all the same things all the same time. And that's really responding to the fact that we know our customers want consistency, but they also want diversion and discovery at the same time. All of it linked through that master narrative, as you were saying, but having some creativity in play to unfold the story over time.
Love it. And talk about a little bit more about how innovation plays a role here. You obviously, we have retail stores, you have e-commerce. Can you talk a little bit about how technology changes your day in and day out, and what the future holds for Foxtrot in the next 5 years, 10 years, and as we look to the metaverse in the future?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because you're right. You could come into our stores and think, oh, this is a new experience of a corner store or a new type of a convenience store. But at our core, we really are a technology company. And that's reflected even in the way that our company team is structured. We have a huge amount of engineering talent and product development talent that informs how our app and website and loyalty program come to life. And I think the reality is that innovation is our primary way of really thinking through how we want to connect and engage with our customer. At a retail basis, our proposition is quite easy to explain, right? We're the place that you come in the morning to have a great cup of coffee and a taco. We'll meet you at lunch for a salad that's ready to go. We'll catch you in the afternoon for a snack, and then we're ready to serve you with a great bottle of wine and a pint of ice cream in the evening. But the connective tissue that makes that all possible really is our app and our platform. And that both gives the seamlessness and the easy efficiency to our customers that we know they rely on. But it's also our way of telling stories, to our earlier point, and then getting closer to our customers. I think, there used to be this notion that, oh, that's tech, that's UX, I don't touch it. But the reality, I think, if you talk to many marketers that are sitting in the C-suite, UX is their richest way to actually get consumer insights and get as close as possible to their customer.
Yeah, no, that's great. And NBCU has always been traditionally a media company, but what we've learned over the past several years is that we have to be more than that. We are a media tech company now. And not only are we providing the greatest content and talent, at the end of the day, we need to be at the forefront of technology to give the content that viewers are kind of craving. Exactly what you're saying is technology how that content and how their favorite brands are going to be delivered directly to those customers. So you talked about it's all about discovery at Fox.
Yeah.
You go into the retail store, you go on the site, it's all about discovery. Tell us the biggest thing you have discovered about your customers that may have surprised you at the time, or something that you've learned along the way.
I think just their appetite and curiosity for newness and their willingness to explore and experiment. About 10 to 15% of our assortment changes month to month, and that's intentional because we're always getting reads on what new brands are that are coming to market. And our customers' willingness to kind of go into net new avenues that even 18 months ago would have seemed really strange. An example would be plant-based proteins appearing in snack food, or gummies that have adaptogens that are actually good for you. That desire to kind of continually be on the cusp of discovery is really at the core of what our customer is craving. And And I always say to my team, never underestimate our customers' desire to really engage and be informed. And I think that's another big piece of consideration as we think about our brand and also our merchandising assortment is our customer is consuming information through multiple platforms, not just from us. And so we've got to be in the same media environment that they're in as we're thinking about how our assortments and our products come to life.
I love that. And in terms of retail, it's funny, we've been warned about the pending decline of retail for years now. But yet Foxtrot has opened 16 locations, correct me if I'm wrong, 16 locations across Chicago, Dallas, DC, and you're now looking to open 50 new stores throughout the country over the next few years, including Austin, Boston, New York, Nashville, Miami. Where do you see retail heading? Talk about how Foxtrot's using innovation to expand both on the retail and e-commerce front.
Yeah, I think listen, I've always been bullish in retail. I grew up in stores. My first job after business school was in Target, and I have an obsession with the type of almost theatrical experience that can happen in really great retail brand environments. And I think we're in a world where, because you've had so much decline maybe in traditional retail, whether it be kind of mall-based, that anchor store environment. Conversely, I think you've got this real hungry appetite on behalf of the customer for engaging environments that feel hyper-localized, that are contextualized in the neighborhoods in which they want to spend time. And that's different from this like go-to retail, right? It's retail that appears more contextually in the environments and in the lives of our customers. And that's really been our strategy. We are, as you can tell by our growth, big believers in the power of a four-wall experience, because when done well, it's like being in a three-dimensional billboard for the brand. And we see that as really our primary first point of discovery on behalf of our customers, where they get to, as I like to say, fall in love with us in our most hospitable format. And then the app just gives them a way to extend that relationship outside of the confines of four walls. But, I was just in Austin recently, in New York as well. And I think what you're seeing are these clusters of really engaging retail that is connected to a certain type of customer mindset, right? But it's walkable, it's shoppable, a higher threshold around retail designs and the purpose of those stores. They're not just transactional spaces, they're spaces to go, to be inspired, to be educated, to spend time. And I think it's no accident that you're seeing best-in-class retailers continuing to invest in it. And, even as a reference point, we're really interested in the work that Restoration Hardware has done, where it's the brand, it's the dream, it's the restaurant, it's everything that you want to be. And that just enhances their digital and catalog business.
Yeah, it's all about the experience and you being able, I love that you guys say it's the moment of discovery, because you don't know what's going to be in that next store when you walk right in. I'd love to, again, connect your history and your education through art history. And you talk about building design and experience and inspiring people. From a CMO's perspective, how much is that infused within the design of how the retail experience is when you walk in? What your personal knowledge of art and the design of it all, and how you relate to the customers that walk in each individual city.
It's really critical. And here I have to really credit Mike Levitola, who's our CEO and co-founder. Mike has made so many really smart decisions about Foxtrot from the get-go. And one was to invest in store environments and to prioritize design as a proxy for the brand in a three-dimensional setting. That's carried forward to today. And if you go to any of our stores, whether it's Georgetown in the DC area, whether it's our soon-to-be open store in Austin, you'll see this real heavy emphasis on contextualizing that design to the environment where it's kind of welcoming in the neighborhood. And then the store layouts, we have a different approach to how we think about merchandising. Most retailers tend to think in terms of store prototype. We think in terms of category prototype. And what that does is it gives us a really very flexible format in terms of how we think about where we can appear. So later this month, we're opening, for those of you who might be from Chicago, you may very well know the Tribune Tower and the Willis Tower, and then soon to be followed by Wrigleyville, our Wrigleyville location. 3 iconic locations, each of them different from the standpoint of who are the passersby, who will a customer be. And we were able to fit our brand vision into those spaces uniquely because we have this kind of modular approach to design.
Love it. I love it. I gotta ask, Chicago has its own flair versus you coming to New York. Which pizza is going to win out? Is it going to be New York or Chicago pizza?
Well, it's so funny. I can't reveal too much, but pizzas, I will just say pizza's a hot topic at Foxtrot right now. And you're right to say that there are regional preferences, and that's something that we dial up to, both in our cafe menu, to the extent that we have special cafe specialty drinks, no matter what region you're in. Like we just launched a cherry blossom latte for our DC stores in celebration of that wonderful spring event. But we do try to not only localize our cafe and prepared foods offering, but also the product that's on our shelves by highlighting favorite local brands and small makers too.
Love it. And supporting local along the way, which is great. Shifting gears a little bit, talk about convenience and talk about how convenience has shifted through the pandemic and what we're seeing as the future of convenience to consumers.
Yeah, I absolutely love this topic because I think obviously Foxtrot's been in the space. The company was founded in 2014, so we've been in the business of on-demand delivery for a number of years and really predated in so many ways the on-demand culture that has been fully normalized at this point. I think what we saw prior to the pandemic was that this behavior was really emerging, and for those that had tapped it and understood it, they were highly dedicated and committed to it. We saw that adoption just accelerate and drive penetration throughout the pandemic. So something that was a fringe behavior became a core behavior, and that really hasn't retracted. I think what we've also observed, though, is that the standards for what is convenient have been raised. So this idea of like, I just want anything, anytime, that's no longer sufficient, right? I think it's this idea of, as I like to say, putting culture back into convenience. It's somewhat ironic that really high value activity, which is last mile delivery, somehow got commoditized to the point where, we all want to be able to have it at any time, costless. But on the other side of that, what's actually be delivered may not be something that feels really special. And that's where our focus on great products and editorializing and curating the right assortment for our customers makes that last mile delivery not only be convenient, but really fulfilling and desirable.
Love it. And you guys have brands anywhere from core pantry essentials, treats, wines, spirits, which you said delivered in the evening. Hopefully you can get delivered earlier in the day as well.
Oh yes, you can get it delivered all day long. Yeah.
Just want to make sure. And everything is available in your retail locations, but you also make that inventory available for either a 5-minute pickup option, if I'm not mistaken, and delivery under an hour. Tell us how that's even possible in this day and age, and then how we see that expanding into the future.
It's such a great question because I think people can go into our stores and I don't blame them because they're beautiful and just say like, oh, this is great. I love this store. But the reality is our stores actually function as warehouses too. I spoke earlier about the investment that how we really are a technology company at our core. And that's not only true from an external customer user experience, but it's also true from the back of house retail operational technology that powers our on-demand delivery. So our stores operate as fulfillment centers as well as receiving centers. And that is what enables us to give that superlative service where you can place an order and within 5 minutes, you're ready to get your cup of coffee or your bottle of wine.
Love it. And I got to ask you, what is your go-to convenience store item yourself?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm usually rushing on the way home, trying to get something pulled together for dinner. So I'm hyper dedicated to our pizzas and to our tortilla noodles. They're wonderful. Tortillas is a Chicago pasta, I would say Mecca here in Chicago. And we carry their line of pastas exclusively in our stores. So
love it. That's great. Items. And then going back to your experience, you worked at Kate Spade, Amazon, Saks, Target, all these big retail companies, great companies. Tell us about a time that something that you've learned from a coworker, a boss, mentor that still sticks with you today.
I think it's just this notion of never underestimate the impact that you as an individual can have on an organization. And I think retail is such a wonderfully flexible and dynamic vertical to be working in, where you are able to connect with the customer directly. And as such, you're earning that customer rapport and trust every single day. And so there's an urgency inherent in this discipline or this field that I'm in. And that ability to feel that you can make an impact and that you should empower yourself to make that impact is something that has stayed with me and is something I rely on really heavily being in a startup environment now.
Yeah, and as CMO, obviously you need to find the biggest next creative. What is the next big swing for you guys to be at the forefront of the conversations? But I found a great quote that you had said in a blog post. It said, "Start with being curious and get your ego out of the way. Your ego is crippling and makes you myopic. If you're willing to say, I don't have the answers, the possibilities are endless. It is the starting point for creative solutions," which resonated a lot with me. But I'd love to know for you, tell us about a time where you just didn't have the answer.
Oh my gosh. Well, I could tell you, that just happened 10 minutes before getting on with you, and I think the reality is that if you have the good fortune to advance, you're going to be more and more in the space where you don't know. And really it's about the quality of the questions that you're asking and working together to answer. I think that I think where we are still learning and emerging is I think it's around prioritizing so many customer insights that we get in. What are the insights that we really want to focus in on? And being able to test and learn around the way. I think there used to be this tendency, I think on behalf of marketers, in a campaign-based environment where all resources were all in on the big idea. And now I think the best marketers have really embraced a test and learn approach that has a lot of learnings, frankly, from the kind of tech sprints that you see on the other side of the house, where it's less about, hey, let's get it perfect, let's get it totally crystal clear, and more about iterative improvements before you make a full investment. And that's definitely an ethos that I've been focused on rolling out with my team.
Love it. And what is the future for Foxtrot? Is there a company that you see in the space that's doing things that you would love to be doing, or where do you see yourself again later down the line in the future?
Well, what attracted me to the company continues to be true, which is this idea that we really have an incredibly intimate relationship with our customers. So we're the first cup of coffee in the morning, we're that last great glass of wine in the evening. And there are very few businesses that can connect with a customer at multiple points during the day, and then multiple times during the week, and theoretically infinitely during the year. So that intimate relationship ultimately is a lifestyle relationship. And I think what's been really exciting for me are the ways in which when we've tested lifestyle, we just launched a new apparel collection earlier this month, how quickly our customers connect with it, because we're really about ultimately a sensibility or a mindset in delivering that burst of excitement, that burst of discovery throughout that day-to-day life that we all know so well. And I always think when you've got a great story to tell and you're in a position of high trust with your customer, you really can go anywhere with that relationship.
Yeah. And how do you feel about experiential marketing? What is the future of experiential, getting people in the store and coming up with the next big campaign in order to do that? I know the pandemic has shifted experiential in a way, and I'd love to kind of hear your point of view on that.
Yeah. I think it's going to be one of the areas you're going to see a tremendous amount of investment in, particularly over the summer. And as we go into truly, fingers crossed, knock on wood, post-COVID life, because the reality is that it's really challenging to create that rich ecosystem of a brand story solely through digital channels. And in universes where many brands have pulled back on retail for the reasons that we talked about earlier, they are looking for those moments where they can really splash out and connect with a customer on many different dimensions. I think that being said, you're going to see a higher threshold and cost structure connected with that. So probably fewer experiential moments, higher quality experiential moments that are tied to events and moments where you're really targeting a specific customer demographic.
Love it. And you talked about local earlier and supporting local. Can you dig in on that a little bit more and how you're going to be supporting local in these cities like New York, Austin? Obviously, I'm here in Manhattan. Like, what what is it about Manhattan Flair that we could do to support the local merchants, but while also making sure that people have the individual experience within a Foxtrot convenience store?
Yeah, absolutely. When we think about local, we really think about businesses that have a direct and immediate connection with customers in the region that we have stores, right? So local for us is not like, hey, anybody in the Midwest. It literally is in Chicago, Bang Bang Pies, which has a location on the north side. We sell their chicken pot pies in our stores. And because that's a distribution model that they themselves would not be able to do, it works out really, really great. So, and that's the type of relationship that we've sought to replicate in all the markets that we operate in, where we're looking for the local baker, the local pastry shop, who would never open 5 or 10 locations. It just isn't economically feasible for them to do that, but they've got the infrastructure to produce more goods. They just are in need of distribution. And what's really interesting for us is that our approach to local is really serving an important economic ladder for the brands that we work with, because in a universe where you've had so much consolidation, you no longer have that moment where you can take a product that maybe was incubated at a mom and pop basis and kind of roll it out door by door. You just don't have that ease and feasibility. And we play that role in the geographies that we operate in.
Love it. And it's funny because like everyone has those brands that they love and they just like they go to, like you worked at Target, for example. People have a specific love for Target than they do for other retail, big box stores. How do we redefine, and not redefine, but keep getting Foxtrot in that conversation of brand love? And I think we just got a question from Allison talking about love Foxtrot. I need one in my neighborhood. How can I get you to come to our area? And I know you guys have specific cities that you guys are eyeing, but because of this brand love and experience you guys are creating, how do you keep expanding and stay relevant at the same time?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I would say I think we're working through what the answer is there, if I'm being honest, Eric. I think first and foremost, it's being hyper specific on the markets that we're going to appear in and not sacrificing on the quality. So for example, we're going to be opening in Austin later this year. We've been out touring that region, getting to know local providers for the better past 6 months, right? So a year in advance of being in the market, we're already researching who are the brands, who should we be connecting with, and laying down that groundwork. And we are continuing to invest in localizing our assortment and making sure that our merchandising team is set up to do just that. I think we're really fortunate in that because we've communicated this idea that we are deeply locally focused, local brands are often on the lookout for us. And so it's this mutual matchmaking period that happens and that will continue to fuel how we appear with new stores.
What is one local brand that you absolutely love to have at Foxtrot that is currently not in the store?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I don't have a specific name to share with you, but I can tell you one thing that we're actively looking at is which barbecue sauce we're going to be bringing in Austin, and we haven't picked the final winner. And I don't want to create a firestorm with all my Texas friends. So I'm going to refrain from saying the name, but I will say that I've been tasting a lot of barbecue sauce right now.
I'll tell you what, we represent Top Chef. We have a lot of chef testants who'd be willing to help you out there with barbecue sauce as well. But we'll talk later about that.
I would love that. We're huge fans of Top Chef. And in fact, we recently did a small makers award contest, and Kristen Kish, who I think won, forgive me the season, but she was on one of our judges. So, and she also has a restaurant in Austin. So
absolutely.
Definitely be talking.
It's funny you bring that up because that's what we hear day in, day out. But people hear that this chef Teston owns a restaurant in Austin and it's a location to go to. And I feel like Foxtrot is becoming that go to. You see it in your local neighborhood and you feel like you're home, no matter what city you're in. So that's great. Now I have to ask from an NBCU perspective, I need to legally, I think I have to ask this question, but your favorite NBC show growing up, as well as your current favorite show on NBCU. It could be any network from Bravo, anything across the board. I would love to ask you your opinion there?
Well, Seinfeld, of course. I mean, and I admit to indoctrinating my son into that. He's learning that sly sense of humor. And then I am a devotee of Top Chef. In fact, it's so funny. I've been watching this season, and I've been bugging our CEO about like Houston locations, because I'm just you just sort of see the dimension of how rich that culinary culture is there, and I'm like, we should expand in Houston. So
absolutely, I'll connect you to some folks here. We can make that happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely, great. So I know there's some questions being asked, and Mike, you let me know if there's ones flooding in, or if you want me to toss it to you. But I think this has been an absolutely amazing conversation so far, Carla. So thank you for the time.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Mike, you tell us, is there any questions that you're seeing on your end? Oh, Mike, I think is on mute. There he is.
I'm on mute there. Sorry, my video was being held for a little bit. Yeah. So is there, do you have any other questions there, Eric, or is it?
I can ask Carla questions all day. I thought there were some questions, and I'm happy to keep going if there's no questions popping up at the top of your feed.
Sure, I'm sure. I mean, there are ones in the chat. I don't know if you've seen those. Is that what you're?
Yeah, there we go. I see one here. Foxtrot on TikTok. How do we go towards social media platforms, and what specifically with TikTok?
Yeah, so we launched on TikTok about a year ago, and we've been having a lot of fun experimenting with it. I think I would say in the last 4 months, we've really been finding our vibe, which is around connecting around the culture of what it means to shop at Foxtrot. And so what do I mean about that? Like, anybody who's a real devotee knows that, obsession with your first cup of coffee on Monday morning, or like when we first announced the coffee specials that with each new menu change. And so we really vibe into that culture within our own ecosystem. And then similarly, pay a lot of attention to sounds and tracks and music that's tracking on the platform to kind of riff off of that natural momentum on the platform. I think what's so interesting to us about that, as a foil to, I think, other social platforms, is that it really isn't community-based, it's entertainment-based. And so riding that wave of interest where you're really not trying to tell a story within your own domain, you're trying to connect your brand story to what's happening in culture. And that's just been a really exciting place for us to play in. Additionally, we've had a lot of fun gifting TikTokers who we love Foxtrot merch, and seeing them wear that merch and content that they're creating that may or may not be connected to Foxtrot. It's just this notion of like, we're part of that sphere, we're part of that media experience, and we just appear in places where we know our customers are concerned and consuming it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because from a media company's perspective, we have all these different platforms that we see as almost like toys in our toy chest that we can use. And like you said, it needs to be immersed in culture. It needs to be immersed in relevant content that consumers are really interacting with. And so for us, like using a Top Chef, for example, like viewers from our perspective want to hear what they have to say. They want to hear the recipes. They want to get the tips. Like, are you looking to partner with influencers? Are you looking to partner? Like, what is the next stage of people getting to interact with their favorite content?
Yeah, I think we've used influencers in various capacities. We've used them to extend the amplification of the different chapters in our story, and we've used that highly effectively. We've also used influencers or asked them to co-collaborate on content to amp up the volume of stories that we're telling. I think the next foray will really be about, because we're at a different level of brand maturity than we were, even a year ago, and we've got a different level of familiarity and understanding around who we are. So our next focus will really be on connecting with influencers whose own story and own approach to content complements our own. So much more of a parity relationship and less about simply amplification or just creating.
Yeah, and I'm sure every city that you go to, the influencer is going to have a total different spin. And so I think it's so interesting that you can go to each city and tell that brand story and create an immersive experience as you're walking in and experiencing Austin, and like you said, in four walls, and then continuing that brand story through social media platforms, digital platforms, and through e-commerce. And it's just very interesting tactic to kind of revolutionize the retail space. But you guys keep growing, which is incredible. So is the goal to, let's say, in Manhattan, get more stores in Manhattan, or would you rather be select with the amount of stores in a city like Manhattan or Austin? Or what is the approach to the amount of retail stores to make it almost like this esoteric place where when you see it, like you have to walk in, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would say that we're still learning what the ultimate density will be in different geographies. And I think that's really highly dependent upon what is a convenient radius for our customers, right? Like in Chicago, we know it's about half a mile. Having lived in New York for a number of years, I know that distance would be much shorter because of course you have such higher density. I think we're still figuring that out. What I would say is that our plan when we launch into new markets is not just to do one store, but rather do a cluster in a very explosive moment. So we're quickly getting a higher level of awareness and sensibility around our intent to really offer that morning to night full experience, whether it's in store or on demand delivery.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, like, obviously it's hard to not compare you guys to the opposite side of the spectrum, which would be 7-Eleven, and that is the fundamental convenience store. But you guys are the high-end luxury convenience store, which still offers the same amount of convenience, but you don't leave with that taste of 7-Eleven coming out. You leave with that feeling that you got exactly what you needed to get, and got a great experience along the way. And I applaud you guys for all. I think a lot of it is the brand storytelling and how you're able to market it, but it goes back to the quality as well. So you guys really pride yourselves on the quality of brands that are in your establishment. So excited to see what's next.
Thank you.
So Mike, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to give Carla a quick quiz to end this. This is not going to be a tough quiz, hopefully, because you do have a master's in art history. So I researched the easiest art history questions that we can kind of end on a high note here. So I got to ask, in which city and country is the Louvre Art Museum located?
Paris, France.
There we go. Who painted the Mona Lisa?
Leonardo da Vinci.
I told you were going to do well in this.
Yeah.
Salvador Dali is associated with which art movement?
The Surrealists.
There we go. Which period has a French name that translates to rebirth in English?
Rebirth. Are you thinking the Renaissance?
That is correct. And I learned that you are also bilingual, English and French. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Very nice. I knew that was going to be an easy one for you. Who painted The Girl Before a Mirror and The Weeping Woman?
Oh my goodness. I know he was Dutch. I don't know.
Pablo Picasso.
Oh, Pablo Picasso. Forgive me. Thank you.
All right, one more, and then I promise you we'll be done. Which abstract expressionist was known for using the drip technique?
Oh, de Kooning.
That is Jackson Pollock.
Oh, Jackson Pollock. He's done twice.
I can't leave you. We got to get one right before we go.
I got to.
Which French art movement of the late 19th century is characterized by evoking emotion rather than realism?
Impressionism.
That is right. There. Now we can end this.
I know. I was the 19th century was my period. I will say.
That is perfect. Carla, seriously, on behalf of everyone on this call and everyone on here, thank you so much for the time and opportunity to talk through this. And we're excited to see the future of Foxtrot and everything that you guys bring to the table.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was great.
Absolutely. And back to you, Mike.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both. What an amazing conversation. Carla, as a fellow arts major myself, I felt a lot of kingship there, and it was amazing to hear about your journey and the amazing things you continue to be doing, as well as you have already done. So thank you so much for an amazing discussion. And with that is the end of our day. So thank you for everyone who joined in. and participated with us. Big shout out, of course, to our speakers, our sponsors, and our audience. That's you. And be sure to check out the Brand Innovators website to learn more about our upcoming events. With that,